A TikTok user sells human bones on his website. You can buy ribs for as little as $18 and skulls for about $2,000. He says he receives the remains from medical organizations, research facilities, and sometimes families who've inherited a bone collection. This has sparked an ethical debate online. Do you think it's okay to commoditize the remains of humans? Does it matter what the purpose is? Does the age of the deceased make a difference? How much respect should we have for the dead? So yeah, exactly what it sounds like. Guy, and I'll put the article in chat for you all. But there's a guy on TikTok, young guy, who is selling bones. And these bones come from all kinds of different places. And people are wondering, like, should we not have more respect for the dead, for these things? And other people are saying, well, it's a business like any other, right? Those people aren't using those bones anymore, so why not make a buck off of them? So I really want to know where you all fall on this, and we'll go from there. So please, Matt, an opening statement.
So it's actually really interesting. In the United States, it's illegal for you to deflesh a corpse and take that skeleton, actually. So the bones that this guy is acquiring from alleged medical sources could be, apparently the sourcing is often from overseas. So we're talking like China and India and just Asia, generally speaking. But like in the United States, it's actually very, very difficult to take a person, a corpse, and get it converted into a skeleton. Like not just in terms of legality, because there's abuse of corpse laws that exist, but also because there's just no facilities available to do it. So like if we want this to be a thing, legally speaking, we would have to do research and development, determine what's the best way of defleshing the corpse, and then on top of that, figure out like how awkward it would be to have like great granddaddy's skull on your bookshelf. So it's kind of my ethical concerns here would be like it's probably okay if it's an anonymous skeleton. It's probably really weird if it's a skeleton of someone you know.
Thank you. Next, Top Dolphin.
Yeah, I'm not as researched as Manland in corpse law, but I'm pretty sure that like there's got to be some sort of an exception for defleshing corpses if like for like medical students and stuff to train on. I'm pretty sure they have access to corpses in some way, and for like research and stuff. So personally, I think I don't care. Dead people care too much about dead people. All right, they're dead, they're gone. Fucking sell their corpses, sell whatever you want from them, except for organs, because that gets like kind of funky with like subverting systems that we have now. But besides organs, like you want to sell bones, like fuck it, who cares?
TV.
So I'm actually going to take the reverse of Madeline's position. I think that it's actually probably fine if it's someone that you know, care about. I think it's kind of weird if it's some strange that you don't know. I think that given that the fact that a human body, human corpse, could fetch as much as like $500,000 if it were to be able to be sold, pieced out and sold. I think that this is like not allowing people to sell their bodies after death, whereas a lot of people just cremate themselves or stick themselves in the ground to rot. There are a lot of poor families that could use hundreds of thousands of dollars for their father's body. And I think that not allowing people to make that decision for themselves is pretty fucking. I think it cuts off a way that people might be able to advance and get out of the lower class.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I can't keep it straight.
Take it out of the working class. All right, Grandma. We figured out how to go and ticket. How did you say your doctor's appointment went again? All right, let's go.
Good news, Grandma will be out of debt. Bad news, though. Yeah, them bones. We're gonna need them.
Rice.
So I think that as long as we're getting the body parts or skeletons from what is currently like legal means, then I'm pretty much okay with it. I think as of 2016, there was only one company in the United States that was defleshing skulls. Um, and they had completely legal means of being able to do it. Most of the donors are coming from cadavers that are used for multiple different things. So, like, you might have a chiropractor that all he wants is a spine. There might be a medical teacher who's only teaching her students how to do like knee surgeries. So all she needs is a leg. And then you're left with a company that just has like parts of a cadaver. And if defleshing and selling the skeleton for like medical classrooms and stuff like that, because from what I've seen, a lot of those skeletons aren't like one single person. They might be a combination of multiple different people whose heights just happen to be somewhat the same. I'm completely okay with doing it as long as they come from those means, and I don't even care if people are just using the skulls for like pieces of artwork. As long as they're getting them from what we currently have as legal means, I'm perfectly okay with it.
Pyro.
Yeah, like one, I just want to say, like, I think, like, if you're gonna own the bones of a person, Jesus Christ, mad lad, and have it be someone you know. Like, if you want to have like great grandpa's skull on like the fucking fireplace with jewels in the eyes, and yeah, that's a fucking cool ass family heirloom. Okay, that's what that's called. But like, getting back to the actual story, like, I'm not okay with people donating their skeletons and whatnot, or like, wanting to sell their bones and shit. I do see a problem when it's like used as a commodity and not like for anything like research, where like, yeah, someone like Dooby can said, like a really poor person can be like, yo, I'm gonna charge $7,000, and then when I die, you get my skeleton and shit. The problem I foresee is like, what if they want my bones quicker than like I'm like giving it to them? Like, what if they're like, yo, I'm waiting and you're not giving it to me, bro? Like, they have every incentive to be like, well, bullet costs $25. You know how much a bullet costs. Like, I could get that skeleton, like, if I really wanted to. And like, that's the problem I might see with it. Like, you're adding that type of value on top of like the already really terrible like organ harvesting shit. Like, I don't want people being like kidnapped for their bones, or like kidnapped and being forced to grow really weird bones. Because if you like form the human body in weird ways during its developmental period, like, you can grow their bones in weird shapes. Like, that's something I really don't want doing for like those really weird collectors who are like, yes, I want the backwards arm because those are really special. And then like they go out and make those because, hey, I can.
Okay. Open to the
All
panel.
right, so let's start torpedoing this idea where you can bring the lower classes up to middle class by selling body parts. The
They're
reason
just gonna
why
get killed.
I mean, the reason why bodies and body parts are expensive is because there's laws against selling those parts. So the scarcity is high, and thus the prices are high. But if everybody is allowed to do it, then we're going to be selling people's corpses for $20 a pop, and that is not going to do anything but like, buy your meal for the day or something along those lines. That's ridiculous. It's not going to do any of that. The second part is we're going to talk about exploitation. Exploitation, even with the laws that we have right now, is still happening. So, like, there's this company in Nevada called what was it called? Blah 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 blah. It's a Southern Nevada Donor Services, right? And what they did, they put brochures in all these funeral parlors saying something like providing options in your time of need. And basically, they were a corpse disposal service, and they made it seem like it wasn't going to be that big of a deal, but they would take the corpses of people, and then I'm just going to read this because this is pretty whatever. Yeah, I'm just going to read this. Just Outside Southern Nevada's suburban warehouse, the circumstances were far from comforting. In the fall of 2015, neighboring tenants began complaining about a mysterious stench and bloody boxes in a dumpster. That December, local health records show someone contacted the authorities to report odd activity in the courtyard. Health inspectors found a man in medical scrubs holding a garden hose. He was thawing a frozen human torso in the midday sun. As the man sprayed the remains, bits of tissue and blood were washed into the gutters, a state health report said. The stream weaved past storefronts and pooled across the street near a technical school. So the point here is that if people are taking bodies and harvesting them for profit and trying to cut costs, we're going to have things that are quite questionable going on in getting that profit, especially if it's legalized across the whole realm.
So if he's violating like health and safety standards by thawing out a torso in the middle of the day outside and then washing the blood into the gutter, right? It just sounds like he's operating a bad business. It needs more regulation. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not a reason to just throw out the entire business. That's really silly.
I mean, sure.
And I really don't understand where you're getting at. So you're saying that people might be exploited. They might say, hey, maybe they think about like, offing themselves or something. If someone says, hey, I'll give you $1 million for your heart. I'm a rich dude. I have heart problems. You're a match. I'll give you $1 million if you walk off a building or something and leave your heart to me. Right. So
I mean, if in your world, you'd have the person just lay there and get the heart taken out anyway, right? Without having to kill themselves. You would actually have them like go to.
Yeah, I'd have them be able to make that decision for themselves. So if these people and this can very easily tie into assisted suicide, things like that. So if someone is making that decision for themselves, so when they end their lives, what's the issue with them making the further decision to leave money behind for their families? Right? A lot of poor families don't have an estate they leave behind. They leave behind bills, they leave behind debt, they leave behind funeral costs. If they can afford a fucking funeral. A lot of these people end up going through the county to get cremated and then up in a little box on the table because the family can't afford anything else. So what's the issue with allowing these people to make the decision to better their families' lives when they go?
Well, my problem with this is you're unironically telling people, yeah, sell off grandma. Like Prime made that joke earlier. And you're like, yeah, no, like this is how we'll help the lower class out. Like some people,
no, not just sell off grandma. If grandma decides,
right? Like we'll go with the auntie and the uncle. Like we'll choose. Like we'll draw straws. Like
no,
I
this
get
isn't.
It, like,
you're speaking as if these people wouldn't have so people can mark themselves like a do not resuscitate or mark themselves as donors, right? What's the issue with them marking themselves is having allowing their family to sell off their organs when they die.
I know if you want to do it after you die, right? Like, yeah, sure. Like, I personally would still be worried about the motherfucker with the faulty heart, like being like, yo, I'm starting to cough up blood and I need that heart now. Like, I might be worried about that, but like in the society, I would be okay with that. Like after you die, though, I don't want some rich person being like, hey, buddy, go take a long walk off a short pier and I'll give you $2 million.
Okay, but this is already a problem that exists with other programs. So like life insurance, right? Life insurance, a lot of times these people will you're able to buy your way into someone else's life insurance policy. You're able to buy a life insurance policy on somebody who's not even fucking related to you, so long as you say that you'll take care of their burial expenses. And there exists that risk. Hey, if this person doesn't die before it's profitable for me, right, to take out this death benefit, then I might want to push them off a building or something, or I might want to encourage them to die or make their life shit so that they want to die, so that I get the death benefit. Like this already exists. I don't see why it didn't be any different.
I mean, you're giving like I think Mad Laden said earlier, you're giving literally every person on the planet like access to like whatever monetary fund someone might be willing to pay for a good heart or like, a kidney or like a bone if they want to sell it. Like, the story says, like, yeah, offering like that to everyone. What I see is a bunch of poor, destitute people running and clamoring up like, yo, you want a kidney? You want a femur? I got this humerus I don't use. And, I'm not for that. Like, I'd rather try and fix their material conditions with our society.
Okay, but
give them the option.
There's a massive difference between like organs and bones, right?
Wait, hold on. This is like you're speaking from like a place of privilege, right? So if these people make that decision for themselves,
wait. A
it is
place
possible.
place
Hold
of
on. Yeah,
privilege.
a place of privilege, right? So if it is possible to live with one kidney and live a full life, no issues, right? So if someone makes a decision to sell their kidney to get their family out of debt or whatever the fuck they want to do, why isn't that decision? Why isn't their decision? Why do you guys suddenly just not give a fuck about bodily autonomy?
So I think we need to talk about a few things here. We need to split this issue up because we're talking about profiting off of
Organs
a
when we were
corpse,
talking about like
but
bones.
also and bones or whatever. I mean, I think it's interchangeable actually. But I was also going to say we should also talk about how the funeral industry is profiting off of us who have this very complicated problem to solve when someone dies, right? Because we're dealing with trauma, sorrow, et cetera, and then the funeral industry is kind of there to help us with the business, but it's also extremely expensive to have a funeral in the first place. So like, I think these two issues are very, very separate because I think we can talk about not trying to profit off of corpses and say it's fine, and then like the biggest point that Dooby could push to say, hey, we should do this would be the fact that funeral costs are so expensive. We should do something to prevent funeral costs. Well, why don't we just reduce funeral costs and not sell body parts?
It's not
We
just
do
the funeral
both.
costs; it's everything. Everything costs money. So if I were to die tomorrow and I wanted to mark down that my family has the ability to sell off my organs, to sell off all my beautiful skin and my beautiful heart, right? Just cut it out of
Your
me.
beautiful skin, huh?
My beautiful
Okay.
skin, my beautiful heart. Just sell it
Okay.
off. What is the issue with me doing that? Just because I want to make their lives better. I want to give them the ability to get some extra cash to buy a new car or some shit, or just put it in the bank account.
You're
What
not gonna get new
what
cars
is
if everybody
the
can do that.
hold on? What is okay? I don't think that's true.
Your skin's not
I
that
don't.
special.
I don't think everybody's going to make that decision. And if a lot of people did, then hey, we have an issue with organs and there not being enough available for people that need like kidney transplants and shit. Maybe that'll
We
help
did
that
this
problem.
already, though. We already
Wait,
did this
hold on.
already.
But hold on. So what is the issue? Because you guys are just saying that there's some kind of an issue with profiting off like selling an organ or something. What is the issue with that? Like, can you just lay that out for
Okay.
me? What's the problem with
So,
with
all
me
right. So
or
first of
anybody else
all,
profiting from a human organ?
we talked about the scarcity factor. If everybody's doing it, there's going to be a reduction in scarcity. The second thing is that in a panel like forever ago, we talked about getting more people to donate organs. And we discovered that something like 0.3% of the organs donated are actually used because hospitals don't want to risk having a failed transplant because if there's a failed transplant, their transplant rating goes down, right? So we already have a plethora of donations. And the quality of those donations are just kind of getting reduced over time because our logistical system is just not fast enough in delivering organs, basically. Long story short, right? So getting a plethora of people trying to donate organs is probably going to make the logistical nightmare even worse. So we don't have the infrastructure for that. And even if we magically built out the infrastructure, I don't think we'd be seeing like a transplant rate that would be that much more expanded. People would be getting less for those organs than they would do now because there'd be no scarcity, right? So like people would literally be reduced to selling family members for like again their meal that week. You're going to be forcing people. You're going to be it's not even forcing people. You're going to be giving people the option to make an ethically questionable choice that they can't take back to feed themselves.
What's ethical?
Basically.
So first off, I don't agree with like 90% of what you just said, but I want to focus.
Okay, well, a lot of it was factual, and you can look it up.
A lot of it was dumb, but I want to focus on the ethical. I want to focus on the ethical issue, right? So, like, what's the ethical issue with me making the decision to allow my family to sell off my body part?
Okay, so your beautiful heart is also like a cold heart that doesn't actually have like any kind of like emotional attachment to many things, I'm sure. So, like, you're not going to see the problem of like selling loved ones' corpses for money, and I get that. I understand that because,
but if that
like,
loved one
you have to have like some measure of like connection with other humans to be able to say,
but if that loved
maybe I don't
one,
feel good about this.
If that loved one has given their permission, said it's okay to do this, and they want you to do it, what's the problem?
If they want you to do it and you don't have ethical concerns about it, we can talk about that separately. But generally speaking, this is like this beautiful, like perfect case where like, you've got this one instance where everything works out just fine. And then there's going to be like 90 other cases where people are going to be like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I need to do this, but I don't want to do this. And like that's the thing. Like we're focusing on like this perfect
but if they're in a
example.
situation where they are so pressed, so stressed out, so beneath the financial burden of whatever the fuck they're dealing with, that they need to sell their body parts, their loved ones' body parts, with their permission, by the way.
Yeah.
Then why would you take that out away from them?
I mean, I would agree with you if there weren't like some sort of option that would be better, right? Like if we're choosing like, okay, what card can we play here to make these people's lives better? It's not, hey, why don't we let them donate the bodies of their, loved ones? It's more like, hey, why don't we make the economy better? Why don't we provide people like, more money for their
all these
work?
things at the same time.
Like, I mean, yeah, we could do all these things at the same
So
time.
you need to give me a reason. we shouldn't do this
However, if we're doing all these things at the same time, getting a job and making more money doesn't necessarily have ethical quandaries involved, but like there are serious ethical quandaries about selling the bones and organs of a loved
I reject
one, right?
the idea that selling the bones or organs of a loved one, like in and of itself, outside of any system, is an ethical quandary.
It can be depending on the person, right? And there's enough people that probably feel very uncomfortable.
Hold on. When we create rules of society, we don't say like you value this individual thing, therefore like it is now an ethical quandary. Like we wouldn't say because one person values human life and one person doesn't value human life that they're like
that we can't murder.
That, like,
what do you mean? We don't
murder
against the law,
and that another person can't murder, right?
All right, but like when we're talking about,
right?
No, because you're deciding. You're saying that this is like the ethicalness. Like, there's a word for that, but like how ethical this decision is based on whether or not the person values the body of their loved one, right? But that's like super. That's not how like we do ethics as a society.
It is. You're just looking at it from the ass and forward.
We don't say that like murder, right? We don't say that it's only wrong if you value human life. We say that people ought to value human life in general, so people can't murder. And if someone doesn't value human life, we still don't let them murder.
All right. So take out the if you value human life, don't murder part of everything you said, and to say if you value the sanctity of your relatives' corpses, you won't sell their body parts.
Wait, but you're moralizing the quote unquote sanctity of like relatives' corpses.
Well, I mean, I guess clearly there's like more disagreement about like the sanctity of the corpse. I get that. However, it's also is everybody okay? I don't know where the alarm came from. All right, doesn't matter. Great. The sanctity of the corpse is a little bit more controversial than murder, I guess, because like the bar is like spectacularly low here, but like
but the problem is you are using this underlying assumption that like necessarily like selling a corpse, right? Or like there is some intrinsic value in the corpse of a dead person, and that anyone who goes against this is necessarily like kind of like committing a moral wrong, or being like forced to make this choice is like committing a moral wrong when you're like arguing. And that's like a really like weird thing to like you're making like a really moral assumption when you're trying to like make your points.
Okay.
The alternative
we'd have to I think we should like
so tell you what, since we are having a hard time determining this, I will just put this poll up here and we'll just call it "Are corpses sacrosanct?"
You cannot.
Oh god,
yes or no,
man.
A poll.
Appealing
I mean,
to
that's what we need to do.
No, that's silly. Come on.
I mean, why don't we just find out?
Like,
I'm just really curious.
But Matt, the
you make
alternative,
like a fucking ethical argument.
The alternative for most people is you have this thing that you care about so much, this thing that you're not willing to sell off because it just means so much to you. You have it burned down to ash and put in a box or fucking urn somewhere, or you stick it in the ground and come back and visit the spot it's rotting beneath every so often. That's like, maybe people don't like connect with their fathers or their grandparents or their friends that way, right? Maybe some people would rather have like a picture of them and some stuff. Maybe they like to wear their father's watch or something to feel connected to them. Maybe they don't need to visit the spot they're rotting beneath. Maybe they don't need to have their fucking cremated body on the fucking like mantle or whatever, right? Maybe they don't need that. Right? Maybe they can have they can hold the memory of their relative dear without having without having them on the mantle or rotting in the dirt somewhere, right? And if these people want to make that decision, if the deceased wants to make the decision to allow their family to do this, what is the issue with it? It's what you're saying. It seems like what you're saying is that because they don't think of this way that you do, because they don't think of that these corpses are sacrosanct in the same way that you do, and because they don't grieve in the same way you do, it's not valid, and that just doesn't make any sense.
I can't believe that I actually agree with Dooby on this.
That's
With
brilliant.
some caveats though.
I
So
think the
I think
problem-
like
oh, go ahead.
well no, I think when it comes down to like any like ethical quandaries that most people would have would come down to like somebody finds out that their family can make X amount of money off of their corpse, whether it be $50,000, $80,000, whatever it is. And they're like, okay, well, we're in debt, blah, 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 yada, yada. My family would be better off without me. So I'm going to commit suicide in order for my family to be able to use my corpse to sell it for medical reasons, get money, and set themselves up in a little bit better fashion than what we currently are right now. I think that's really the only ethical or moral quandary that most people would have with this. And it's super easy to get around that by just putting regulations and stating that, like, suicide victims wouldn't be able to be used in this process. Like, if somebody commits suicide, you can't be, like, selling off their organs and stuff like that.
Man,
I mean,
okay.
like, if we're talking about like what legal precautions we would take to make it more ethical, one that I would want to go for is that, like, yeah, it's not gonna be like the cost of the citizen to like keep that heart preserved or keep that lung preserved or shit, because that's not easy, especially if we're talking about raising the lower class out of like, and that's one thing I worry about, right? If you're not incentivizing these people to actually kill themselves because someone's offering me $20,000 right now for a heart, or like telling their family that, like, yeah, once this person dies you'll be able to do that, but then, like, congratulations, you have a heart, you have like a couple of hours, or like at best like a day or two. Like, that's something I would like, maybe the government can step in and do that if we're going to say it's ethical. But like, if not, that would be one of my big concerns. Like, cool, you have the autonomy to get rid of your body and sell it if you want to, but like, if you're going to leave that to your family, I would want to think about like what the family's going to have to deal with. And what the family's going to have to deal with is like, okay, now we have this heart because we can't actually fucking predict death in most cases. What the fuck do we do? Who do we contact in actually selling this shit if like the government's not involved?
Yeah, well, this is infrastructure that can be set up, right? I'm sure there are plenty of companies that will pop up, and if you know that
Craigslist is already there.
if you know you're on your
There's already
deathbed,
companies that
right?
do
They'll
this.
provide a facility for you. You can go on, pass there with your family around you, and then they deal with the dirty stuff afterwards. The hospitals.
Maybe I'm the only one here,
second.
but this.
Wait, hold on 1 second. So hospitals kind of already do this, right? If someone's on the donor list and they die in a hospital bed, the hospital will keep their body in a certain way, right? For fucking hours sometimes, until they have the ability to wheel it off and to take the organs out. Right? This is something that already
So
happens.
like, I would ask you, because like you seem to be the main proponent of buying human organs and shit like that. Where would you draw the line to when this decision has to be made? Because what I personally don't want is like a bunch of backlog of motherfuckers making the decision right on Grammy's deathbed. Like, yeah, no, we're gonna sell the skeleton, we're gonna sell the fucking heart. Like, when would you draw that decision of like, because like I know with the organ donor system, like you do it with your ID and shit, so like it's already recorded. Like, where would you draw that line for like a family deciding?
I think to start, we should say that the person whose body is being sold, while they're alive, should have the ability to sign on the dotted line somewhere and say that they're allowing this to happen. Beyond that, you run into another issue which I haven't really settled on yet, right? Which is when someone dies, the duty to or the responsibility of burying the corpse, right? Usually falls on the next of kin or the family. That costs a lot of money, right? Thousands of dollars. It can cost you $5,000 to get cremated and put in a box somewhere, right? Like,
Wait, do you think it's
so-
going to cost more to like preserve organs?
No. So what I'm saying is, if someone doesn't sign on the dotted line, right, and they don't say that their family has permission to do this, their family is still tasked with getting rid of their body afterwards or burying them afterwards. So, and that could cost thousands of dollars. So is it fair on the family to say that they don't have the ability at that point to make that decision to sell off, parts of the
Well, we
body
talked
beneath
about
the rest.
this is the exact argument I was trying to undermine, right? Like we should be reducing funeral costs, so that's not justification for
Yeah.
harvesting someone's body parts.
Like the answer to the question is like reduce, like Mad Aladdin said, like, no, we should just reduce funeral costs. I don't want to give people the I don't want to provide the option of, hey, you might put yourself in more of a hard time. Like,
How do you
actually trying
reduce
to-
funeral costs?
Huh? How do you reduce funeral costs? We get rid of all the embalming. We get rid of the fancy ass boxes. We dig a hole and we toss your ass into it with a sheet wrapped around you. You know how much a sheet costs at Price Right? It costs $1.
Okay, but the burial plot costs a lot of money, right? Thousands of dollars in some cases, because these cemeteries have limited space, right? So you're gonna be occupying that space for fucking ever, right? Or until
All right.
people forget about you and they dig you out and throw you in a dumpster somewhere, right?
Okay,
So that costs a lot of money.
Christ. All right, so like I think we could have state managed. I mean, the state already manages a lot of the regulation in terms of like how how the disposal of corpses is supposed to work, like what's legal, what's not legal. I mean, I think subsidizing funeral costs, like the state subsidizing funeral costs, is like the way to
State
go, right?
regulated fucking graveyards and shit, so we have a places to put our fucking bodies and they don't run off into the rainwater, and then we just get rid of the fucking cost. It's a
And there's,
dead
like-
body. You know what
and
it's
then-
gonna do? It's gonna
and also-
decompose.
And also, so we don't have to get like too ridiculous about it. Like, there's also like companies that are producing better ways of disposing bodies. Like, my former boss was really excited when he discovered he could become a tree after he passes. They'll like cremate a corpse and put the ash into like a little potted plant thing, and you can just become a tree. So like, there's like definitely ways of doing this that are ethical, does not leave something behind that can be pilfered by grave robbers, and also we could just have the government pay for it. Like, if we're really, really, really looking for solutions, I'm sure there's something better that I have not come up with yet. But I mean, worst comes to worst, if we have to choose between people selling bodies so that they can pay for the cost versus just having the government cover the costs, I think we can say that one's better than the other.
Get rid of all the fancy ass processes. Okay, I get it, right? Maybe just throwing them in the hole a little bit too much, right? But do we really need the expertly crafted, hand-woven baskets that no one will ever see?
So all of the expertly crafted, hand-woven basket stuff isn't stuff that's like required by law for people to do. At the end of the day, if you don't want to bury your loved one, or like, I'm pretty sure like you like can sign the body over the coroner's office and they just like pitch it for you, basically, or they might like cremate it for you.
Funerals and burial are really fucking complicated. When you actually want to bury a body,
wait, but you
like,
don't have
hold on,
to.
hold
Right?
on.
That's not like a
You
requirement. People
don't.
hold on,
Wait. Top
hold on.
Dolphin. Like you finished.
You're not.
point,
You're missing my entire point, Doug.
No,
because
I'm
like
trying
you're
to
saying that like it's a
I'm
complicated
trying to
process. I understand that, right? Like I've been through this like 100 times. But like
Cool,
no
hold
one
on.
actually has to ever like bury their significant other. That's not like a requirement. That is a luxury, right?
That is literally bullshit. In some people's religious cases, yes, you do have to bury them.
That's religious stuff, and like we don't. Our government
It is
doesn't,
religious stuff, but yeah, like some people do follow that. So
yeah,
yes,
following your
in
religious
certain
rules is
cases,
a luxury. I'm sorry.
Okay, so like certain cases, like yeah, there are times when like yeah, trying to actually bury someone is such a pain in the ass. The way they actually market them fucking coffins to you, there really isn't a cheap option.
All right. My religion says that I have to pay tithes to church. If I decide not to do that, the government doesn't come down and punish me. Right?
Who said anything about the government
Okay,
coming
hold
down
on.
and punishing you?
This has nothing to do with religion. All right. Pause.
Pause.
This has nothing to do with religion. Like, the disposal of bodies is important for one specific reason, and that is, I mean, like, very functionally speaking, corpses
We
are
need to get
toxic.
rid of our dead.
Yeah, corpses are toxic, and if we don't have a good process for removing the corpses, people will get sick. That's the point.
But there are like the difference is right. There are rules in place and like what needs to be done to a body, right? The body has to be like taken care of in some way. But the whole like bury them in the ground with a fancy box and shit like that, and like removing those costs, every single one of those decisions is a luxury, right? Every single one of them. Now you can argue, that's like my religion. Your religion is a fucking luxury.
It's like
a forced luxury.
Wait, time out, Madeline. I don't think you understand. Like, yeah, it's an enforced luxury. When my grandma died, like last summer? You know what happened when we went to the funeral home and tried? Those fucking coffins were expensive. There wasn't a cheap wooden box option. We opted to have her cremated because it was less expensive. There is that option. Some people don't want the cremation. Some people want that like tombstone and that like graven plot for some fucking reason. You're right. It's not something they force you to do. You can get your people cremated. The government's not going to come down and punish you. No one here in this panel, except for you, has said anything like that. No one's talking about the government coming down and punishing.
We're using the idea that like funeral costs are expensive. Therefore, like burying bodies is like unethical because people have to make that decision. But like we don't usually make laws that determine like whether or not a decision is ethical based on like luxuries that people might have, right? We don't make laws saying that like, oh, you can't participate in this like luxury, therefore like we're going to make it unethical to do the alternative because it's
I think
like
you're gonna have to
profit-driven.
change your name to Bottom Dolphin because the takes tonight have been so not good.
I'm sorry that I don't like buy into the whole like we need to love the corpses of our dead ones.
I'm sorry.
But
like you're saying like we shouldn't have laws to like regulate this stuff or whatever. Like
I never said that. I specifically said it in my opening statement that one organ the selling of organs is bad and we probably shouldn't do it because it undermines the system that we use for organ donation.
Okay, let's talk about burying corpses. Hold on. So burying corpses. Let's talk about that real quick.
Buried corpses? Okay.
Okay. So you're saying that burying corpses in a coffin is a luxury.
Yes.
And the government
100%.
should not subsidize that.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, wait, hold on, wait. Not that the government shouldn't subsidize. Like if the government wants to subsidize, like I believe like some coroner's offices will help you like bury a loved one if you can't afford the cost. Not all of them, right? It probably varies like from like city to city, but like some of them will do that. But I'm saying that we shouldn't make rules saying that like something is unethical because someone cannot participate in said luxury.
Okay, well, yeah. So like participating in said luxury implies that there's alternatives, right? And like here's my
alternatives.
Point. No. Cremation is like $1,000 apparently. So like let's talk about
wait.
Let's talk about the luxury aspect.
Cremation, right? You can go get cremated through a private company like a funeral home, or you can get cremated through like a coroner's office, right? And the prices on these things are like drastically
the coroner's
different.
Office is that a state institution? Is the government subsidizing that? So it's the state subsidizing a quote unquote luxury in this case, isn't it?
Wait, no,
I literally the thing I was explaining.
Wait, I said bodies need to be dealt with, but I didn't say that like getting your body cremated through like private organizations, that's a luxury. Having like your body buried and preserved in some plot of land or getting like a headstone and stuff like that stuff's a luxury. Okay. Getting rid of the body is a necessity, right? There's like a difference.
But you just said that cremation was a luxury unless it was done by the coroner's office, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So like if a private company is doing it, it's $1,000. If the coroner's office is doing it, it's cheaper. And the government's subsidizing this quote unquote luxury and making it cheaper. And you're on board with that, right?
No, because wait, hold on. The disposal of bodies is not a luxury. We have to dispose of bodies.
That's the point.
Right?
Cool.
Wait.
I'm so happy we can agree on that.
Like, we reached it. Mad Latin, we did it.
Hold on. We wouldn't say that because someone can't have like a 5-star steak dinner at fucking Outback Steak. That's not a 5-star dinner place. A 5-star steak dinner at a place, right? That like they aren't able to participate in like the act of eating, right? There are levels to this shit. There's like when we say that people need food, there's like a baseline level of what we consider like necessity, right?
Yes, and you know what?
Top of that, there are like luxuries.
Oh no!
Wait, hold on. Hold on.
Bottom dolphin. Let's be correct here.
You're bottom dolphin. Like I understand where you're coming from, and like there is a range. Like the thing is, and we should know this because like. Other than like Dooby, we're all like pretty lefties here, right? When there are inequalities in like the food system where like foods in like certain places are just ridiculously higher and shit, people comment on that. And right now we're doing that with the funeral system. It's fucking ridiculous.
The difference isn't people being able to afford like fucking Outback Steakhouse, right? The difference is people being able to afford
wait, that's not what I'm talking.
Healthy, nutritious food that is like a requirement for living like a healthy life.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Completely different from like dressing up your loved one in like a suit or like getting them cremated and putting them in like a fucking like pearl engraved box with like all the pictures on it and shit like that.
So like, if you weren't too busy like making shit up in your head, like you missed the point entirely. It's not that like, yes, everyone should be able to afford a steak dinner. It's the fact that when everything in your area cost as much as like a 5-star steak dinner, even the lower option choices, which shouldn't, but they still cost a ridiculous amount, we all come on these fucking panels and we bitch and we moan and we complain about it endlessly. Now, when it comes to funerals, we all of a sudden don't want to do that. Like, I'm like, when it comes to the original topic, I'm with Dooby on this. If someone wants to sell their body and shit and their organs, and we have the proper legislation and systems put in place, cool diddly fuck, cool. Because like, all my worries are about the material and whatnot, not like the moral. But when it comes to like burying people and whatnot in this country, it's insanely ridiculous. You can get cremated; it's still expensive, not as expensive as trying to buy a coffin. And even the cheapest coffins are pretty fucking expensive. That's the point. The burial plots are really expensive, and they shouldn't be, since getting rid of dead bodies is literally a necessity by society. We cannot have
getting rid of that. You guys are equating getting rid of dead bodies with like fucking fancy fucking funerals, all right? I've been in this process. Like, if you want to take care of your loved one because you value like the fucking like the fucking skin bag and bones left,
we're saying just the bare minimum. Like,
you guys,
yes,
wait, hold on, you guys.
Oh my God,
are making this false equivalency over and over and over again. Like, you don't understand that like they're like you make from a state point of view when you argue for things to be like that are necessary, you don't argue for like the fucking luxuries on top of that, and you guys keep doing that. It's fucking insane.
We're not arguing for the luxuries on top of it.
Every time you use the
word, hold on. Can you let me finish before you go off on another rant? Time out. Wait. I'll let you go after this. But like, when we're talking about this, they're not luxuries. You need to get rid of your dead body. You agree with this, right? Right now in America, wait. No, right now in America, there are very few options about like what you can get rid of, do to get rid of your dead. You can donate your body to science and they'll like harvest you and they'll take all your shit. You can get yourself buried, which is incredibly expensive. Or you can find one of the multitude of ways to get yourself cremated. If you want to go with a private company, that's still pretty expensive. If you want to do it with a crematorium, like depending on what service you get, whether you just let them keep the dust, whether you get like the actual urn and shit, that can still run you up a pretty buck. All me and Mad Latin are saying is the government should subsidize some of that, so it's a little bit easier for people to dispose of their dead and not go into debt.
I just want to add one more thing.
Of the argument you're making is that eating is necessary, so everyone ought to, like the government ought to subsidize Olive Garden so they can go like eat food.
That's literally not what we're saying. If we want to,
okay, got a lot of smooth point. Mala and then Dooby. Then,
okay, so like, we're gonna actually add to this too. Like, we're not talking about like everybody needs to eat and we should all get fancy steak dinners. It's like everybody needs health insurance, say, and the health insurance cost should be much lower. Like, it's more in that vein than the whole eating every day.
No, it's not even.
I'm sorry about Dolphin. I'm talking. You're not. Dooby's next. Okay. Now I want to add more to this. Actually, a fantastic mod on this channel, Amanda Smash, had actually provided me with this link in chat, and I was perusing through it, and there's even states in this country that require the use of funeral directors. That is, you actually have to have the body submitted to a funeral director, and then they are going to provide a death certificate that is certified. The funeral director is going to provide a death certificate that's certified, right? So like, the idea here is that you're going to have a situation where people are being forced to spend excessive amounts of money on something that is a necessity. The disposal of a corpse is a necessity, yeah? Just like having health insurance is a necessity, and we're spending tons of money on that. Health services are expensive. It's a necessity. And this is just another place where government could subsidize the costs, reduce the costs on us, and we don't have to treat it as like a luxury. Yeah, we could cremate everybody, and that would be totally fine. You even agree with that? You even agree with that, Top Dolphin?
Yeah, no, I think it's totally.
Like,
if we want to,
then why are we talking about luxuries then? Like, we don't need to talk about luxuries here. I will say,
people's brains go out the fucking window. Okay.
I will also say that currently the cheapy cremation system that exists does not allow family to give their last goodbye to the corpse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's probably not a lot of transparency. So one thing that I would also add on making this like something that's more universal is also give families opportunity to say goodbye to the corpse before it's cremated and then before the ashes.
You can do that in the hospital room where they died, or the wherever they.
We can do that in the hospital room where they died, where we can set a fire in there. Is that your plan?
Yep.
We're talking about brains out the window here.
Yeah, right. We're gonna set a we're
Yes,
gonna
sir.
like
bottom dolphin.
set a
wait,
fire.
I'm sorry. It's the government's responsibility to make sure that everybody across all the family members across the entire country are able to come see the corpse of their loved one to say goodbye one last time. All right?
Who said that? Who exactly said that, Top Dolphin?
Mad Latin, literally.
I'm talking about the corpse.
I'm being what's the word? Hyperbolic, but. I mean, seeing the corpse is not a fucking necessity. At the end of the day, the corpse needs to be dealt with. That should be cheaper. I'm 100% board. I think the state. Actually, I'll go really far. I think the state should offer basic cremation services. If you can't fucking pay for your body to be cremated, there should be some cheap ass urn that shit gets tossed in, and the body should be burned down, and the state should pay for all that, right? Maybe the urn is $30 and like the cremation's free and the state takes care of whatever, and that's paid by tax dollars. But anything on top of that very, very minimal process is luxury, and people should pay for it if they want. But
let's go.
I'm willing to accept this take.
Dooby.
So everything you guys just said is relevant, stupid. But
You're relevant.
I'd really like to hone in on the ethical dilemma that Mad Lad keeps pretending exists. Because I don't think you've given me a reason to believe that it does exist. But even like beyond, the family needing to sell off bodies or whatever, because of the cost of burial, what if I just wanted to do it, right? Like, so what if I say, hey, family, when I'm done, bury me, sell me, cremate me, do whatever the fuck you guys want with me. I'm gonna sign a release. My body is not your body. It's your property. Do whatever the fuck you want with it. What would be the issue if they have no connection to this corpse, with them selling that to some collector or selling to somebody, some taxidermist, some edgy taxidermist, right, to stuff me, or someone to make like bone knives out of my shins or something? Like, what's the issue with me making that decision, my family making that decision? Like, why do you think you can impose your ethical dilemmas upon us?
If you want to turn your corpse into a weapon, if you want to use and by the way, not the shins, you want to use the ribs, right? They're more pokey, so that would be a lot easier to carve. First of all, second of all, and you could use your femurs as a club. Actually, that would be like really cool. Like you could actually weaponize like your corpse, and it would be really, really nifty. And you know what? I'm fine with that. Sure. Like if you want to do some weird, crazy shit, and you have the money to do the weird, crazy shit, abso-fucking-lutely, you should be able to do whatever you want. The point isn't.
No, it's
the
not.
point isn't. Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me explain this. I'm gonna get to my point. It's cool. My point is that if you can afford to, and you certainly have lots of wealth since you can buy loot boxes as often as you'd like, you can do whatever the fuck you want with your corpse because you can afford to pay someone to carve you up and do whatever the fuck you want done with your body. Fine, great, cool.
No.
However, no.
Come
in. No.
Oh my god.
Okay, my point here is that if you are trying to secure wealth by turning someone else's corpse, someone from your family, and so if you're using wealth as a temptation for someone to do something with a corpse, the efficacy becomes more questionable because people do morally questionable things for wealth. And in terms of determining whether it's ethical or not, we need to look at desperate cases. For example, let's not even talk about organ donation or bone donation or anything else. We can talk about, I didn't really want to have to go here because this is really especially gross, but I guess I'm going to have to resort to this because apparently I'd have to. I'm just not good enough of a debater here. I just have to bring this shit up. So we're going to have to talk about necrophilia here and people selling their corpses for that purpose, right? Like, what if someone is paying for something, for a corpse for that purpose, and that being something that a desperate family engages in?
Where does the gross part start?
Yeah, hold on. I think that's fine, right? So hold on. No, I think so. Again, if
I need a moment, I'll be right back.
Oh God.
Oh, he's gonna get gross on us
do
now.
we
He's
live in the
gonna-
wild, wild west here? I mean, like we can regulate these things.
Yeah, no, that's why I gave Dooby that. If we have a really well regulated system and shit, where
Yeah.
like we could avoid like enhancing the fucking body trafficking industry. Yeah, no, sure, fucking
Well,
turn my skull
there's-
into a family heirloom or some
Well,
shit.
there's already an industry that's making millions of dollars on. So, like, when you sign up to be an organ donor, like most people don't realize this, but you're also signing away your body to be a tissue donation as well, where they're not just going to take your organs. Another company is going to come in here and they're going to take all your tissues, which include like your skin and bones and stuff like that.
I
They'll
think
take,
at the
like,
point
your
of like
diff-
taking your organs, like all of that is out the window. Cool, they're cutting me open.
No,
and
but
taking
here's
my heart.
here's the issue though. So in the United States, it is technically it's illegal to be selling these body parts. However, there is a law that states that they can make the money back that they spent doing this stuff. They could severely overprice how much it costs them to do this, which is what it seems like based on all the stuff that I'm reading. But we still use all these things for like medical purposes. Like they'll do, instead of giving you like an ACL surgery, they're replacing that with like a cadaver Achilles because it's stronger than your ACL or MCL is. If you're having permanent implant tooth replacement, a lot of the time people have been missing these teeth for a while. That bone inside your jaw goes away, so they have to fill it with a graft, which if it's natural grafting is crushed up human skeleton, like human bones that have been turned into a paste that they then pack inside of there until your body decides that it's going to make it part of its own. And these companies are making millions and millions of dollars on doing all this stuff. Why don't we allow the families to get involved in that and actually get some of that money that these corporations are making buku bucks on? Like we can
if all you're
regulate
saying-
it.
Yeah, Madeline, if all you're saying is that there is an incentive for some people to exploit other people, that's fucking everything. Like, what do you?
I mean, it is, but like,
so
there's
why
limits,
is this?
right?
Why is this so special? Right, that you would want to remove the possibility at all, given that there is also the possibility of people not being pressured into these things, of people not being exploited, and people just making the decision to have their body sold off, to allow their family to have them fucking preserved and then fucked in the ass at a glory hole somewhere, right? Like if this is what they want to do, what's the fucking issue with it? Like, I don't understand why you're pretending there's.
Dooby, if I had ownership of your corpse, would you feel okay with me auctioning it off to a glory hole somewhere?
If I signed away, right? If I wrote on
Would
my dotted
you-
line,
would
let
you do
me
that?
answer your question. So would I? No, I don't know you. Why would I give you my body? I'd give it to my
Right.
family. And if they wanted
Would
to
your
cut me
family?
into, if they wanted to cut me into pieces and make fucking toys out of me or something, I wouldn't give a fuck. I'd be dead, and I hope to make a lot of money doing it.
No, I'm saying they're going to send
Cut
your
my
butt to a
corpse
glory hole.
into
Like literally, they're
That's
going to cut
fine.
off your butt and send it to a
It's
glory
fine.
hole. And you're
It's
okay
fine.
with it.
I'm fucking dead. I don't care, right? If they can make some money, right? Why not?
Okay. So the problem, I think I can get a little bit more particular here. It's the variation on the value of a corpse between even family members. I think we can actually narrow this down. I don't think we can universally say that a family would necessarily have the corpse's. I mean, I don't want to say the corpse's best interest because I understand that at a certain point the corpse is a corpse and not a person anymore, right? But at the end of the day, I think there is something to be said for the corpse having been a person, and that person having the right to determine on some level what happens, and also have the assurance of knowing that there isn't going to be like some sort of mislead that gets their corpse sent somewhere that is not great. Like the fact that currently we're in a situation where people's family members can accidentally be sent to like, a city street in Las Vegas with a guy hosing off a torso is a bit of a problem right now, I would say. So does that kind of get us
no.
closer to where our divergence is here?
No, because again, this is something that could easily be signed out in some kind of contract or in a will to say you can use my body for this purpose and this purpose and this purpose, but you can't have me fucking the ass for the next 100 years, right? Like that's not you could very easily put that into a will or something, right, and sign off on it. Like it's, I really don't understand. Like,
So-
Would the government enforce that though? Like, would the government keep
Yeah,
track
I
of
mean-
like all of your booty holes and not and make sure they're not used as like glory holes and whatnot?
So I don't know who keeps. I think, I mean, there's, if you have the will, right, there's someone who executes the will and is in charge of making sure that, you know, everything in the will is like followed or whatever. But if there's like a disagreement about how that is carried out, I think that would go to court, right? So, you know, if there's someone that's found to be in violation of this thing, they'd probably take them to court.
Yeah, but like, how far down the line?
I
Like, bodies
don't
last
know.
a long
Wait,
time.
so
when they
like,
decompose.
So like, let's say I put in my will that I want to be cremated, right? I don't want the whole burial thing. I don't want pictures of me blown up and stuck all over the walls for people to cry at. I just want to be buried. No, I'm sorry. I just want to be cremated, put in a box somewhere, and then, you know, tossed in the backyard. That's what I want. But my family ignores all of that in my will, and they go through the whole fucking burial process anyway with like a big ceremony and all this shit, right? Who's it? Who would be in charge of punishing them for that if there is something to punish them for? Like, I don't fucking know.
Well, yeah, no, like I
I mean,
would
at a
agree
certain
with you there,
point-
but like that's not selling a corpse, right?
I don't.
I mean,
don't
at a
see as
certain
much
point, the
difference.
more
So what you're
freedoms
saying is
we-
you're laying out what you want to happen to your body. If they're not following your wishes, I mean, how do you enforce that? I don't know.
I mean, at a certain point,
I'm sure there's a legal process for that.
the more freedoms we have, the more regulation is required to sort of like prevent the abuses of those freedoms, right? So like if you have the freedom to sell parts of your corpse, like again, there's going to be like a lot of agency involved in deciding what's okay and what's not okay, and then enforcement, like, you know, investigating.
Yeah, I
and
love
regulating.
regulation. That's
Right.
fine.
So like if we're looking at, for example, like restaurants, like, you know, there's a bajillion restaurants and there's like inspectors for all the different restaurants, right? So we would have to have a situation where there's like, you know, government or just funeral homes that are being like regulated by the government, inspectors visiting, like just dropping in on funeral homes and making sure they're not doing any shady shit and just confirming that everything is being done ethically. So I can see a system where this could potentially work, but I still see a situation where folks are being exploited because at the end of the day, like money talks. But I mean, I guess they're not going to make a lot of money because the supply goes up. Like maybe I could be pushed in this direction a little bit.
I mean, okay, so let's say the supply goes up, and instead of making $10,000 for my hand, you're making $100. If that's enough for my family to sell my hand, and I've given them permission to do that, what's the fucking issue?
Like I would have an issue personally with my family if they're valuing any part of me less than like 500 personally.
True, actually.
Like,
I would
yo,
make-
Put that in your
you,
last will.
Grandma,
If they don't follow it, somebody can raise a
$100.
lawsuit. That's how
I mean,
that shit
I'm
works.
gonna be honest. I would pay
Corpses don't have
$100.
rights. I'm sorry.
I would pay $100 for a Dooby hand ashtray. Actually,
Well, no, but like the
Like,
problem.
if I wanted to leave my dick to Prime, so he could have it like copied or something, made into dildos for all the women in chat, what would be the issue with that? Like, I think that this,
No.
like, it could be my parting gift to the community, right? Just Prime getting my frozen dick in the mail, saying, "Hey, Prime, here's how to make this into a dildo." Like, I don't, and if I've signed off on this and Prime is willing to do it, why do you think you need to be involved?
I don't. I would just question, like, why would you give up your dick for so little money? Like, that's, for me, that's the thing, right? Like, I'm in this in between with the position you just raised where I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to sell human bodies, but if there's legislation, we can come to it. And then, like, no, you're not going to fucking devalue me, bro. Like, I've done the research. I know how, like, a fucking milligram of skin goes for $26,000, bro. You think I'm going to give up my dick for 100? No!
I mean, if Dooby's really slinging that hog out there, it could be beneficial for other
If
people
Doobie-
to be
Listen,
able
if
to get
Doobie
that
got
dildo
a
for cheap.
if Doobie got a massive fucking hog, right? There is supply and demand. People
All right.
want that massive.
All
Like
right.
we
Okay.
value.
Look,
Maybe
I
Doobie
just
just
don't-
wants to
okay.
donate it. It's fine. Like,
Look,
If
I
he
have
personally
as
wants
the
to
perfect
donate
argument for
that,
this.
that's fine.
I
That's
think that
Well,
there's
we're
no
saying-
way
Wait,
that anybody
hold on.
wants to have a 1-inch dildo. So like this, I think this hypothetical is.
We're not
is
talking
completely
about you, Mad Laden. We're talking about Doobie, okay?
I mean, he's a frog. Like, look
Yeah,
at
we
him.
know how frogs work. Like
He has
7
a
times
cloaca
longer
at
than their
best.
body or something.
That's fucked up. It's racist.
Sorry, speciesist. I mean, and in a sense, actually, that's fine because you're a frog. Like that's
Okay, but jokes aside, tell me what would be wrong with that situation. I'm making this decision. Prime is okay with receiving my dick in the mail and making it into dildos.
That nobody would buy.
Why do you
Very
do you
small.
feel like you need to be involved in this transaction?
I think the overall point of like this entire debate of selling human bodies, like the only point I could find that's like, yo, we're assigning a legitimate price for the consumer for the human body, and I don't know how I feel about that. Because like in my mind,
subjective culture.
Hold on. In my mind, I'm imagining us talking about this and like, oh, maybe Dooby might buy a rib or something. But then I imagine those weird fucks like Elon Musk or like Jeff Bezos or any of those weirdies. Like, no, I'm gonna just do this for clout. And it's like, man, do we want some am I okay with like some person selling like their literal body for like, the scraps of money?
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Listen, I honestly,
what if I
know
sell
how
to an edgy taxidermist and he stuffs me and sticks me in the window of his shop? Right? I'm like, hey, like what's the fucking issue with that? Like, I don't.
See, again, like I think like my problem,
okay
my problem isn't the idea that like oh, we can like just sell and buy our bodies. Like my idea overall is that like now there's a price on how much a human is worth, and like obviously with more money,
there's always been a price.
Yeah, not like that.
By the way, corpses aren't humans. Thank you very much. There's a massive distinction there, right?
Yes, corpses are humans that are no longer alive. Thank you for that expertise.
No, they're not. No, like the thing that makes a human a
right
now. We don't give personhood to corpses. We don't give rights to corpses, right?
They're not
at the end of the
alive.
day, once your consciousness is gone, and once you're dead, the what remains of you is just fucking
so you're ignoring
organs, right?
Wait, time out. You're ignoring the fact that I can go in my grandma's, like my second grandma's room and make a corpse. And then, the corpse has no rights. Ooh, then you're right? But like, there's a very clear way. There's a very clear way of making a corpse.
The problem with making a corpse, right? The problem with making a corpse is that you're violating the autonomy of a living being, right? A living human person who we give rights and personhood. Once that living human dies, right, of not like natural causes, right, or sometimes not natural causes. Once that person dies, right, assuming that like there was no wrongdoing in the death, like that body doesn't have even if that person is murdered, that body doesn't have any rights. That body doesn't have any like personhood.
Wait, but hold on, but Top Dolphin, you're speaking as if there's like as if that body is no longer that person, but I'm telling you, I'm going to be hunting every single one of those Dooby dildos when they go out. Every single one.
He's gonna be like Voldemort, turning it into a.
If there's no blood in a corpse, you can't craft a dildo. The point is, when you die, you're not going to be able to.
Listen, if
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure how long it is. Like a lot of corpses, like get erections when they die. That's like a thing.
Listen, if they can put a corpse,
I think the harvesting of the organs is a lot more of a priority than the harvesting of parts for dildo.
Okay, well, all jokes aside, you haven't given me a reason you should be involved in this transaction or why it would be unethical.
I mean, okay, so like, I think the best I can do here, because this is actually a lot more subjective than I was anticipating, to be fair, right? I mean, I think at the end of the day, we just have to talk about cultural norms on some level here. And I would have to basically prove that there's a cultural norm in our society that would cause people a great deal of grief in determining what to do with a corpse if money becomes involved, right? Like that's basically what I have to do. I literally have to present a series of arguments where that basically just prove this this concept that like we are kind of programmed in a specific way where if our family members were being used, we as in like our culture, not necessarily we the people on the panel, because apparently everybody on this fucking panel has no problem with doing whatever the fuck with whatever corpses, but
family heirlooms, bro.
Fairly, yeah, let's just get that fucking diamond skull, right? So, I mean, I guess like that's the direction I have to go in, and there's not a lot of research on this. Like, I thought there would be a lot more, and I'm having a really, really hard time. And Azzy's even booing me, and with Azzy's booing me, I'm in big trouble. Like, I like
I mean, like, if we
mean,
I
want
got nothing.
even that
if
argument
we
there,
wanna
I'm
get
kidding,
into the
Azzy. I
nitty-
love you, by the way.
listen, if we
They
want to get
top
into the
Azzy
nitty
and
gritty
top
of it,
Dolphin, bottom Dolphin now, by the way.
if we want to get into the nitty gritty of it, Mad Lad, and like we could go the historical route, right? Like there have been cultures all over the world, all over the world that have like, yeah, they've used like their ancestors' remains and shit for ceremonial purposes, to make tools and shit, for household purposes. Like they
Mhm.
find bones and shit all the time where it's like, ah, yes, this was like their great grandmother, and what is it? It's a fucking grindstone. And it's like, yeah, apparently people used to fucking do that shit. Like,
Yeah,
if
some
we
Yeah,
had
I mean,
people, some
over
people
time we could
today,
eliminate
that, I
the.
wouldn't be
some
okay.
people today make their relatives' bodies into like diamonds and shit, right? They wear
Yeah.
them around.
Again, like if we had
Yeah.
a completely decent system, like I'd be okay with like, yeah, sure. Why the fuck not? Make sure it's clean. Make sure it's hygienic. Make
I
sure all
just
that
don't
waste
know
isn't
how we could.
contaminating the shit.
I don't know how we can regulate a system of body part distribution that's like in a safe manner. I mean, not. I think it would be better than what we have right now, right? Like what we have right now is completely unregulated, and there's a lot of people who are taking advantage of the fact that there's not much being done here. So I think that if we were selling body parts legally, it would be an improvement. And then I think what would have to happen after that, we would actually have to do studies to see if it's causing actual harm. And then if it is causing actual harm, we would have to stop the process
If we see
unless it
more
becomes a
bone
problem.
on, if we see more bone on bone crime and like caveman violence, I'll 100% agree with you. Right?
Okay, so now that we've gotten to the point where I've gotten you all to agree that it's okay for me to sell my body after I die,
Yeah,
or
I
after I
always
die,
agree.
whatever. Okay, so now that
It
we're
can
there,
be ethically there. I don't have
Okay.
proof that it is or is not. I will acknowledge that.
okay, so now dealing with the story that Prime linked about the TikTok guy who's not selling family members' bodies, he's selling the bodies of strangers, right? Who I don't think there's any evidence that these people signed off on their bones and whatnot being sold by some lanky dude on TikTok, right? Um, Now the people who agreed that I should be able to sign off, or anybody should be able to sign off for their body to be sold by the family, whatever, for whatever reason. Um, what about that? This person
Oh yeah,
taking
no.
the bodies of people who died 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 50 years ago, right? And piecing them out and selling them off to collectors or whatever. Is there an
Yeah,
issue with that?
yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, because like when we talk about earlier, signing off on yourself for a family member signing off, that is one thing, right? And then when we're talking about this, like, I want to know how we fucking got these bones, right? Like, who the fuck is selling this shit off? Like, if I donate my body to science, well, I want it to go to science. I don't really want it to be like a display for 2 weeks and then like it's just thrown in the trash, or it's just sold for like $20 or some shit. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then having it resold and like the kids, like, yeah, no, I don't ask people what they do with them. Like, I don't really care. Like,
I'm
I,
still pretty okay
So to be
with
clear,
it.
this
Yeah.
guy isn't like buying the organs. He's not like going up to family members when their family just dies and being like,
No.
"Yo, like, can I have?" This guy is getting like not organs, sorry, specifically bones from like medical like institutions that no longer have like a use for them or whatever.
Yeah,
Who,
he
like,
said his three most
like
common suppliers
so
are
the-
research organizations, museums, and universities.
yeah,
That's what he says,
and
anyway.
these are bones that have like that like the person like the family is like the person has died. The person is declared or the family has decided that they're going to donate the body of that person to science, research. They have been harvested. They have been given to research institutions. They have been or museums or whatever, or collector. I guess somehow collectors got them if they're old enough. And then after that, like the bones were like no longer needed by museums or medical institutions, or some collector who already owned bones was like done with them, and they sold them to this kid, and now he's just reselling them.
I have no problem with
yeah,
that.
no, I like, for me, it's just like, cool. I donated my body for science. Like, when you're done with the science, if you get done with the science, I don't know, grind it up into paste and use it as fertilizer. Like, don't fucking resell me, bro. I'm not a used car.
Well,
Like,
I'm sorry, but when you die, your body won't have rights. So
I mean, sure, like you could make that sarcastic point, but like we're talking about morals.
It's
Like,
not sarcastic. It's 100% right, right? Like, I mean, if you want to put it in your like last will and testament that like, hey, once my body's used for science, I want this shit disposed of, then I guess like if the institution that takes your body doesn't dispose of it properly and sells it, then like one of your family members down the line could like take them to
trying
court.
to make is that there's nothing I can do about it, then like, yeah, you're right. There's nothing
Well,
I can do about it.
I'm giving you a clear path and avenue of what you can do about it. You can have one of your dead family your family members after you're dead file a lawsuit against somebody who tries to sell your body. As long as you put that shit in your last will, because we respect the last will and testament of dead people.
Again, like, cool, that's something they can do. But like when the question is asked, like whether or not I agree with this, like, yeah, no, I don't agree with this. I don't think that people should be resold off after they've expended their use for science or whatever they donated their bones for. Like, nah, not at all. And then also when we're looking at this article, we're not even just talking about like, bones of able-bodied people, actual people. This dude's reselling fetus skulls. And then that line gets really fucking murky because did the fetus consent or what? Or like, did the mother consent? And what did the mother consent to? Like, did she know her fetus was going to be sold off like a fucking, doll or whatever? Like that, there's like fucking shit with that like, I question a bit.
I mean,
and again, I realize
right,
that
so they're just property at that point.
This other
yes,
article
I get it.
Yeah. So I was reading another article on this, and it's mostly like talking about like how skulls are used for like art and everything. Don't get me wrong, like it looks dope as fuck. But part of like what kind of struck out to me is, and like you kind of brought this up with like, oh, well, what if they start selling fetuses and everything?
He was.
They were doing studies and everything, and I guess between 2015 and 2016, there were a bunch of body parts that were sold on Facebook, and you could buy a mummified Peruvian fetus for $8,000 on Facebook during this period of time. So, like, stuff like this, I feel like is going to continue to happen, even if we don't have it here in the United States. I think like the best that we can do is just regulate it as much as possible, and I don't see. If like, because you can't say that maybe some of the customers that he's selling to are other schools and everything. What if he's just kind of being a middleman here, and he's buying these from universities who have bought newer cadavers, and then he's selling these bones to maybe like a smaller like community college or something like that who didn't have the money to buy a brand new one.
That's actually a consideration like I'll actually take, because like in the article he states like he doesn't ask these people. So that possibility very well up on the table, as well as the possibility that maybe he's selling it to like Jeffrey Dahmer's brother who has a thing for bones and shit. Like all possibilities are on the table because this guy doesn't ask, and like sure, cool, he decides not to ask. Like I'll give you that. Like 100%. Like my thing, like again, like I understand that the bodies don't have rights and stuff afterwards, but like again, I just don't know exactly how to say it. Like it's not like the family issue where it's like you're getting explicit consent to do this, and it's like written down in your will that like, yeah, my family can do whatever they want with me.
Yeah, I think
like with the donation shit, you're giving your body specifically for a reason.
Yeah, this is why I said earlier. This is why I said earlier that like I think this is where there's like there might be an ethical issue, but I think you run into the issue where like there are like so this guy isn't the only person who does this, right? The TikTok.
Oh no, there are multiple. He's started a trend.
And I watched a video from one dude like last year, and I watched it again earlier today actually, to refresh my memory as to what he does. And he has like embalmed I don't know if they're embalmed. It's like for example, he has the vagina of a Victorian era prostitute floating in a bar in like a jar of like liquid for some reason. And he has all kinds of crazy shit. He has like a mummified person from like the 1800s. And he's selling her for like $25,000. Right? Like at some point, right? If science doesn't want you anymore, there's nothing else to be researched, and your vagina is floating in a bar of liquid in a bottle of liquid somewhere. Like at what point can they say, hey, I'm going to sell this for $20, just get it out of my fucking closet? Like at what point does it stop mattering that you cared 300 years ago?
I mean, like, if we're gonna play the time game, like that's a really fucking hard one. Like,
I don't know if there is a time limit on vaginas
no, like
in a jar.
no, like if we're gonna play the time game seriously,
There's
like
no-
I understand the point, Dooby.
There's
Like,
no time limit.
There is. Like, there 100% is. Like, you're more removed from time, right? Like that Victorian prostitute that he was talking about, who has like her.
You wanna have a little mummified vagina in a little jar?
No,
somewhere?
Mad Latin. Here's one.
Yeah, like what if I wanted an organic fleshlight, so I bought this thing, right?
Listen.
Like what it is.
Doobie, stop! Just don't.
Dooby's memeing too close to the sun.
No,
for me to defend him.
just I can't do this. Okay, all right, we're gonna work our way through this.
There is
Fine.
an argument to be made that, like, with how long time passes, like we're less separate, we're less connected with like those people, right? So, like, we could make the argument that like 50 years, 100. Like, I personally, I don't know, because like that is a very good point. Like, after 300 years, and like no one knows your fucking name anymore, but your little pelvis is in a jar, like. But like I would say, like, something like 25 years or like maybe 50 years. You got to give it like that buffer time, at least some buffer time.
Wait, so
I
25
don't think we
years?
need to give buffer times for fucking people to feel good. Once your body is taken care of, it's a piece of property. Once you're done, that's how it works. It might make you feel uncomfortable, but like that's how it works.
I mean, yeah, no, if you want to go down that route, right? Yeah, it's a piece of property. Whose prize is like my family's property. So like, you're exactly right. If my family wants to argue a fucking lawsuit about like, yo, you said you were going to use this motherfucker for science, and he's on the Halloween display at, the fucking Halloween store. Like, yeah, they can do that. Sure. And that should be in their right. Like, I don't think the government.
Wait, did I hear you correctly? Did you say that after 25 years, that?
Oh, I'll be very clear for you. I don't know the time limit. I was just throwing numbers out there. Like, it could be 25, 50, 100. Like, I honestly don't know at what time would it be okay for like those bodies, like, to become like public goods.
I guess
I will hear the arguments for it, because like, yeah,
so morally speaking, okay. So morally speaking, I think like we're having a hard time. I mean, like, okay, all right. Sorry, the only thing I can think about is this fucking jar now, and it's just Jesus. Okay,
don't tap it.
Do you want to see a picture of it? I can get it.
No, I don't want the picture. I don't want to think about it. I just want this to never. As soon as this is over, I'm gonna watch like something to just like purge my mind of this. Maybe I'm gonna drink myself blind. I'm not sure what. Okay. So, morally speaking, okay. So morally speaking, there's no issue, right? Like, right or wrong, universal rights and wrongs are kind of like, it's very hard to say this is not a good thing to do, because like, historically speaking, humans have done it for a long time, and it's been mostly okay, and people have been able to deal with it. Certain cultures can deal with the selling body parts better than others, obviously, but it's possible to have a culture that does a good job of harvesting body parts, and it's fine, right? Ethically speaking, it's like kind of particular, especially in the United States right now, where a lot of people do still put value on the empty, soulless corpses that are of their loved ones, right? And the point is
that's why those corpses belong to those people necessarily, right? Like,
right. That's why
keep them and not sell them.
Right. So, like, ethically speaking, being able to decide what happens to the corpse is actually like a really big deal, because in our culture we do value. Most of us value. I mean, again, this is the thing I was having a hard time arguing, but I would say that most people value a corpse, and if a corpse is being defaced somehow, I see a DM, and if there's a jar in this DM that I'm seeing, I'm gonna have a big problem. There better not be a jar in this DM. There better not be like.
If there's a jar in the DM, send it to me.
If it's a jar in that DM, I'm not looking. I'm not even gonna look at it. I'm not looking at it. I don't even care.
Oh, it's
you
want bad. It just looks like a big blob.
No, I don't want to know. Nope, we're good. We're moving on. Okay, great. So I think if we're putting financial incentive on people to violate their cultural norms,
Jesus Christ!
If we're putting I'm not looking. See, this
Why
is the
is
face
it
of someone
so
who's very happy
mucusy?
because he didn't look at whatever the fuck that was.
I thought we were
Anyway.
talking about like a
Knowledge is
skeleton,
power
not
even
like
when
a
it
No,
hurts.
no. This knowledge is a nightmare. I know I see the face of someone who's gonna be haunted tonight, and not by a ghost,
Not that
like haunted by
bad.
whatever the fuck that was. Anyway,
It's flesh. I thought it was like a skeleton.
causing someone to have to question their ethics and cultural norms in exchange for money is certainly problematic, and I think that's like really what the argument
So I have a
is
question for
against
you.
this.
If
Okay.
someone, let's say someone is tempted against their religion, right? Their ethical and moral foundations to do sex work for money, right? Because they believe it's wrong because of their religion. Would you say that this is like a moral decision that
I'm
should be
sorry,
made?
I looked at chat. I can't look at chat either. Can you say that again, please?
Okay, so very similar. Let's say that so like OnlyFans is like really big, and let's say there's like a Christian lady out there who believes that like, oh my god, that shit is like blasphemy and disgusting, and it's morally wrong to participate in it. But the paycheck's really big, and she's kind of she knows she's hot, so she like has to make that decision. Do you think that like that's a wrong decision to have to put that person through making?
So, in terms of bodily autonomy and OnlyFans, like this directly ties into that. I completely 1,000% agree. This is the first valid thing you said tonight. I will call you Top Dolphin again because you associated things that were actually relevant. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I agree. This is actually extremely relevant. I think what it comes down to is that she's making that ethical choice for herself and her body, right? And like I think this is actually very difficult too. Like this is like we're kind of trying to figure out where to put some line, and it's like somewhat arbitrary.
Wait, hold on. So the difference is, right? The only difference is that instead of herself and her body, it's themselves and their property, right? That's the only difference.
Right. So if you want to technically describe a corpse as property, that's fine because
I mean, that's what
speaking,
it is. It has
functionally speaking, you're correct. Yes.
Unless you want to give me a
However,
reason, unless you. So this is what you have to do. You have to give me a reason why corpses should be given some sort of rights or personhood. That's it.
So what I would say here is that functionally speaking, you're correct. We're talking about property, but culturally speaking, we attach quite a bit of character to a corpse, and that character that we attach to the corpse, culturally speaking, and since it's culturally speaking, it's more ethic. Like this ties into the ethics a lot more directly than functional. I think because we've got cultural connections to the corpse or put character traits on the corpse, it becomes slightly less property and slightly more something in the middle, if that makes sense. That ethically, if we're talking about ethics, we should strictly refer to the corpse with its functional state as property, but also the character traits that we've given it that makes it slightly more than property.
So I would agree with you if the people value the corpses of other people or other people's loved one, right? Like, so for example, I might give a shit about like my dad's corpse, right? When he passed away and we got his urn, or I actually don't give a fuck. Fuck corpses, they're stupid. But let's say that I did, right? But I don't give a fuck about some random person on the other side of the United States corpse who's I've never met, right? So people don't have like an attachment to like corpses, right? They don't really care.
Well, I mean, you
They
can
might
read
think some
tragic
things that people
stories
do as some people
and
might
not care about those either, though, right? Like at the same time, if someone else is experiencing it, and you haven't given the person across the country character traits because you don't know them. You need to know them to be able to give them character traits. That's my point. And that's like completely valid, right? It's subjective, I understand, but we're talking about ethics, which is somewhat subjective in nature. And in this case, I'm saying that if you want to give something character traits, you have to actually be able to perceive the object and then perceive the character traits. So if someone is really attached to their, I think these are teddy bear ears, right? And they love the teddy bear ears, and these are the best teddy bear ears, right? And they burn. Like the person who loves the teddy bear ears is going to be heartbroken because they gave character traits to their teddy bear ears. But if you hear about someone who like lost their mind because their teddy bear ears got burned, you're going to be like, what the fuck? Because you can't attribute the value that this person had for their teddy bear ears. That's the point. So it's going to be subjective. You're not going to give a flying fuck about a corpse regardless, unless it's someone that you've already given character traits to.
Yeah, but then we wouldn't, like, with the teddy bears example, we wouldn't say it's unethical to make someone choose between their teddy bear ears that they love and have given character traits to, and like $1 million.
I mean, on some level, it would be actually ethically questionable because if they are very culturally attached to their teddy bear ears for a reason, then I use teddy bear ears because it's outlandish. But we can come up with all sorts of like sacred objects instead that we would all be like, "Oh, that's kind of really scuffed up." Yeah, yeah.
So the argument you're necessarily making is that it's unethical for anybody to ever have to make a choice between like something that they found like they give sentimental value to.
There's an ethical quandary every time we are forcing someone to choose between their ethical code of conduct and money, because money is a fixed functional resource, and an ethical code is an ethical code that is kind of abstract in nature, but leaves like
but you're not appealing to some sort of ethical code. You're appealing to someone's individual like moral beliefs.
Not moral, specifically ethical. I'm splitting this between ethics and morals because morally speaking, I think everybody's correct. A corpse is like selling corpses is not like actually a bad thing. Because
do you know the difference between morals and ethics? Because you are using this completely incorrectly.
No, I am actually using it very correctly. Actually, ethics are determined by your culture, while morals are more universal.
That's not how that works at all.
Really? Here, go ahead and look it up. I can wait, but it would be very boring for everyone. Here, should I? Here, do you want me to do it? Okay.
Sure,
here,
I'll let you discover
what
this.
Are they? Ethics, the rules of conduct recognized in respect to a particular class of human actions or a particular group or culture. Cough, cough, hint, hint. Hey, that's me being right. Morals. Principles are habits with respect to right or wrong conduct. While morals may prescribe do's and don'ts, morality is ultimately a personal compass of right or wrong. So I guess that using universal is a little bit more unfair with this definition that I just read off. But I think you could say
to simplify it to like a very, very, very simple level. Yeah. Ethics are the rules that we make based on the moral assumptions that people have, right? What happens is we have a group of people, right? These people come up with like moral beliefs individually, and then ethically, right? We make rules based on those moral beliefs to like uphold some sort of society, right? Okay. It's very, 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 very bad and simple understanding of it. So when you're appealing to someone's personal attachment to some piece of property, you're not appealing to some ethical rule or principle. You're appealing to someone's moral conviction towards a certain item.
So we're appealing to someone's moral. Yeah. I feel like there's like some sort of.
You're not appealing to like some societal rule.
I mean, I get that I'm bastardizing the definition of morals here. I agree with that sense, with what you're saying a little bit. But I don't know if I agree with the
even
why.
Back up from like the words like moral and ethical. You're what I'm saying is you're not appealing to some universal or societally held.
So using what you just described,
you're appealing to someone's personally held principle.
All right, let me just use what you use specifically here, so we can have like some sort of universal language here. So if ethics are formed by like sort of like a democracy of morals, right? That you would agree with that kind of
somewhat.
And ethics of culture, the ethics of a culture determined by the democracy of morals that exists within that culture. Okay, cool. And that democracy of morals is kind of what I was referring to when I said universal, right? And I was using the term universal incorrectly. I will acknowledge that completely. But in this case, I don't mean like the democracy of morals in one specific ethic. I'm referring to the democracy of morals from all the cultures. So like I'm cutting up all the cultures and putting them in different chunks. And I'm saying that there's like certain morals that exist within each individual culture. That is like, if we have a democracy of morals, there's an ethic in each culture that's, functionally against murder a lot of the time, that sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So with that specific definition of morality that we're looking at, I can't say that's morally incorrect to sell corpse parts, because in all the different cultures that exist, the morality swings from like wildly between left and right. Like there's like all sorts of stuff going on. I can't actually argue that point whatsoever. So I literally have to go into the ethical route, and I have to go to the ethical route for the culture that I represent specifically, which is this culture.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of problems.
But if you're just appealing to the current ethics of the culture that we exist in, and we advocate for changing those ethics all the time on here, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's this issue or a host of other issues.
Right.
So I would say we just need a.
So
with the current ethic we need to change.
right. So we could speed up this conversation by discussing like trying to get people with the program or without the program. But when we're encouraging people to change their ethics, I guess that in and of itself is extremely subjective and based on our individual moral principles. So like your moral principles,
sure.
Dooby, is please sell my ass, and my moral principles are please don't sell my ass. It's kind of like where we're at.
So you would just not have your ass sold. It just seems like because you don't want to have your ass sold, you're attempting to take away my decision to have my ass sold.
But just because you want your ass sold, you're basically saying that we should encourage.
I should have the option to.
You should have the option to, and like I'm okay with that, except we're going to have a creation of a circumstance where there's going to be people who are going to have a very particular difficult time in determining whether to sell their loved one's ass or not.
So
right?
what?
Well, I think that's kind of the problem. Like,
Wait,
so
hold on. So you're saying, hey, we're
going back to the OnlyFans.
We're gonna create an ethical issue decision that a quandary for people, and because that's complicated, we should just remove the question at all, right? It should just be what I decide, and what I decide is you can't do this because that's what I prefer. So and because that's what I prefer, we're gonna remove the entire equation and just say, hey, we're gonna go with what I prefer. How does it make any sense?
So what I'm saying is that if you give too much in terms of rights on some of these issues, you give people difficult decisions that they have to make. Like the more rights you have, the more responsibilities attached to those rights, right? Like having free speech is great, but then on top of that, we can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater, that sort of thing. Like rights come with responsibilities. And there's certain rights that come with so much responsibility that it creates like a significant societal cost. And those societal costs, well, hold on. So let's talk about the societal costs here. Like this is the types of things that we're going to have to navigate. And the types of things that we have to navigate are much more severe than someone yelling fire in a movie theater. We're talking about the societal costs, like will people die sooner than they would have otherwise because their bodies can be sold. There's an ethical cost because not an ethical cost. Societal cost.
People die sooner.
Societal cost. Wait, hold on. I want to get through this. So like the societal cost of someone deciding to terminate faster is that you've got someone that was trained to exist for 20 or more years or however many years we're going to decide the line is, deciding that they want to terminate X number of months, years too soon, so that they can provide their loved ones with some sort of net revenue. And then we're going to use the market to decide whether those months and years that they've removed from themselves is actually worth it. And the fact of the matter is, if everybody gets to do it, then they're not going to get that inherent value for the months and years of the time that they've given up. On top of that, we're also negotiating societal costs, like people's sentimental attachment to the corpse and the mental health in addressing this, right? Because they are literally saying, hey, I'm going to sell this body part of my loved one and I might regret it, but I need the money. And they're going to be eating the one sandwich they could buy with that money, crying and hating themselves for it. Like these are what I'm saying here is more than crying. We're talking about mental health destabilization. Like you're already down, you're already suffering, and then you're actually having a moment where switches are being flipped because you literally had to hit rock bottom. And this would be something
I think this argument to make way harder ethical decisions already. A really good example of this is when someone is brain dead, we give their loved ones the choice, right? Whoever has I think it's power of attorney or whatever, whoever's next of kin, has to make the choice of to pull the plug, right? I would say that's a much more severe ethical quote unquote quandary for some people than that of deciding what happens to the dead body of their loved one.
Right, but hold on. But this is a number thing, right? Only once in a while you're going to have someone who's going to pull the plug. All the time, for everyone, we're going to have to figure out what to do with the corpse.
So what? Wait, hold on. So what if I find out that I have like cancer or some shit, and I can either off myself or go through months and months of chemo and months of putting my family through the emotional turmoil of watching me degrade and deteriorate and suffer, right? Or I just end it now, make it easier for them, not have them wasting all their money to try to save me, right? To try to find any hope they can. That is also a conundrum that people run up against. You also have the issue with like life insurance. Sometimes people have life insurance policies for millions of dollars, and this is the only thing they're going to leave to their family. They have no other estate. They have nothing else to leave behind. Just a life insurance policy. Some of those people will choose to end their lives early. Some of those people will choose not to get medical attention that they otherwise would have because they know that they have a life insurance policy. Life is full of very hard decisions. Right. So
So
all you're saying
because
is that this will add this will give people yet another option. And because it can give people another option, and all these options are very scary and they're very hard. We should just not give them this option at all. We should just do what I want to do. That's not this is a really
So,
bad
like,
argument.
provided that the oversight of the body market is like of good quality, this argument is indeed like kind of moot, right? Like, it wouldn't matter because like the oversight would be so good that we would be assured that people aren't necessarily like selling bodies they don't want to sell, right? Like, I think that would be fair. I don't think we have a guarantee of that in terms of like how we could, like, we barely can enforce the oversight that we have right now. I can't imagine this oversight necessarily being entirely functional. People get food poisoning in restaurants all the time. I think there would be a lot of cases where people have I think we'll be finding lots of warehouses of bodies, that type of thing. So I think in terms of people having to make hard decisions, like going through with the chemo treatments and going through with like pulling the plug, et cetera, a lot of people make the decision early and let their family members know to reduce the burden. Hey, if I'm in this situation, this is what you need to do, right? So there's some personal responsibility attached because the person in question can tell people that they know, hey, this is what I want. And that's like such a common practice nowadays that I think that you can kind of remove that as one of the things. Not all the time. Like, there's cases where things get really sticky. I get that. But those cases are so infrequent that anytime it happens, it becomes like a media sensation, right?
So then
What are you
why
In
doesn't it
talking
terms
become
about?
of in terms
commonplace?
of cancer stuff, again, these are fairly infrequent circumstances. Like, not as, I mean, it's more frequent than the whole pulling the plug bit. But again, everybody dies. Everybody's going to have to figure out what to do with a corpse, multiple corpses even. And because this is such a widespread phenomenon, I would say that the sort of difficult decisions being made here are going to be significantly more challenging. Now, I think there's personal responsibility
So what?
attached. I think it's
Hey,
possible.
So wait, hold on.
wait,
We can get rid of all your reservations with this by just saying, okay, these companies aren't allowed to advertise to the individuals. It's
Okay,
only the
that's
ones who
dumb.
have to know
so
about
like
it, who know
I would
about it,
still
can
love that.
participate.
I
I
don't
see
think
Mad
that removes
Ladin's
anything.
point, like, and like to
No,
Dooby, like
his
just
point's dumb.
because we already have bad choices within society doesn't mean we should unlock the door and offer, in what Mad Ladin is saying, this other fucking terrible choice that might have abject harm that we don't realize because, surprise, surprise, we haven't allowed
No,
this in
but
society.
that's not
No,
the
but
point
that's
though, because like Madlad had said himself though that like it's pretty widespread now that people are making choices prior to them dying on what they want their families to do with their bodies. Like, they're putting it in their wills, they have DNRs, they're saying like I want to be cremated or I want to be buried. Like, this is just another option that they could put down. Like, you don't have to leave it to your family to make this choice. Your family could make the choice if you
Right.
never did any of that, but they already have to make those hard choices anyways on like what they're going to do with your body, like how much they're going to spend here, what they're going to do there, if they want to put your body up for like medical donation or not. Like, they already have to make all these hard choices, and it's already widespread enough where people are making this choice for their family beforehand anyways. So why is this adding so much more of an ethical quandary for these families to be able to do?
So I think the question is, if we can actually guarantee, if we can actually, I want to respond to Rice Daddy.
Wait, no, I want to add into what he's saying really quickly because essentially, I agree with him. I want to totally because essentially what you're saying is that because this is a difficult decision and some people might choose to do the thing that you don't prefer, or they might choose something that you think is bad. You just want to take the decision away.
I mean, so okay, so let me focus on Rice Daddy's point real quick, and then we'll go to yours. So I think like if we had the common practice, right? Like, let's say we made this legal and everybody could do whatever the fuck they want with their corpses, and selling the body parts is fine, et cetera, right? And we could basically guarantee that someone's decision is enforced and followed through upon. Cool, right? But the thing is, like, this common practice of saying, "Hey, I want you to pull the plug," or "Hey, I don't want you to pull the plug," is not necessarily written out, right? Like, a lot of people don't necessarily put the thing out. They literally tell their family members, "Hey, whatever you do, don't pull that plug," right? And then they respect that. Although with the financial considerations involved in the "don't pull that plug" instruction, families might choose to not necessarily follow through on that, right? And that's where like the hard decision is, and that's where the personal responsibility is, making sure you leave writing so that everybody knows this is what I want. So provided we have a situation,
you're advocating against life insurance.
So
this already exists. This financial incentive to like pull the plug on people called life insurance already exists.
It's certainly a downside to life insurance, but does it outweigh the benefit of life insurance? Well, no, because life insurance gives a lot of money, a ton of money, like way more money than selling a body part would, right? If you have a good life insurance,
it depends on how much life insurance you have, right? But
But I mean, just like generally speaking, like the life insurance itself is actually like a trove of wealth, whereas the body part thing is not going to be a trove of wealth. So, like, if we have a perfect system and we know that people's wishes are going to be followed through, I can't imagine an actual problem with this. That's fair.
Doesn't that life insurance also make it an easier decision on the family too? Like, they're already like, okay, well, we're getting $150,000 from the life insurance. Like, now we can also decide, okay, do I want to sell the body for medical purposes, or are my like closely held religious beliefs more important to me? For a lot of people, I think that'd be a pretty easy thing for them to answer. Like, okay, no, I'm Catholic. This isn't what I want to do, so I'm not going to do it. Or I believe in like this burial method, so I'm not going to do it. Or you're going to have those people that I don't really give a fuck. I'm going to sell the body because we don't believe in any of that stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
Right.
Like, I think
the life insurance is good.
Yeah. I don't think this is like this super like determinative question where like, oh, people are going to have like mental breakdowns. Like, sure, there's a possibility that some people are going to do it, but like, we have ethical questions that people are dealing with on a daily basis. Like, I mean, like one of
the concerns I brought up earlier is like I was scared like this shit's gonna like embolden the fucking human trafficking market and shit, like, and then like, yeah, if we can implant a legal system, and I don't even think it has to be 100% perfect. Like, we don't live in a world full of perfect shit. Like, if we could get a good enough legal system in place where like the good majority of this shit's taken care of well enough, I would put aside my moral quandaries of like, oh, it might raise the market. Oh, it's a little bit creepy. And like, yeah, sure, let other people do what they want to do. My concern is without that institution there, like, if I see that on like a slippery track.
No.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if it's going to be legalized, you need to build the underlying structure to carry it out, right? And I'm sure
you would need to. You would need to. Sometimes our government doesn't actually do that.
Sure.
Right.
So there would be a lot of very entrepreneurial people who would create businesses that would come by. You know, your family member dies, they have this contract signed, they come by, pick up the body, do all the nasty harvesting and whatnot for you, and then just give you a check.
I mean, like, but see, that's like what there are companies that are already offering to do things that are similar, except without the fancy check, and we've already found lots of problems with them, right? Like that, I already like listed.
We have problems with restaurants. We have problems with every company, any type of company that operates. Because companies run by people. Sometimes people fuck up. Shit happens, right?
Or intentionally, just like, you know.
Sometimes
I'm just saying, like,
sometimes restaurants drop food on the floor, stick it back on the plate, and serve it to you. Right? Sometimes they
that does happen. It's true. I mean, I once watched a guy. Well, it doesn't matter. What
Yeah,
matters.
So far you're saying is that, hey, something sort of like this exists, and there are problems. We find problems with it sometimes in some of these.
Yeah, but this is not the same thing.
Well,
Like
hey, that's every
the
business.
scale is quite different. Like we're talking about like getting sick for a day versus like.
Object that has no meaning whatsoever. Like,
Well, no,
unfortunately, you're forcing me to agree with Top Dolphin here.
No, I'm
Like,
sorry. An object that functionally doesn't have any meaning, but we already discussed like the ethical and moral, which
Sure, like-
means that it's like a question, right? Like for
So
you,
people
yeah,
could
sure,
have-
fine.
yeah, people
Yeah,
can
like-
choose, right? We're not going to force you.
But
Like,
we're not even talking about, and we can be very functional here. I'm not even talking about like a corpse being abused here. I'm literally talking about like this Las Vegas enterprise that was hosing off the corpse in the Western United States midday sun
it's called,
and getting blood and goop all over the place.
It's
right?
called
but-
in a perfect world, they get a fine. Like if you go to a restaurant and they get
Yeah,
caught
sure,
dropping food on the floor and then like you videotape it, they get shut down. Ideally, these people would be shut down
Yeah.
too, because that's kind of fucking yikesy, bro.
Yeah,
like
no,
I don't want to
I'm
wake
with
up
you on
and go to
that,
school with a
right.
pool of blood in front
And
of my school.
if we allow
Yeah.
this to be something that's legal to do, so like there's going to be a couple of things that like, you would think would more than likely happen from this. Like one, people are going to be possibly more informed on like what's being done with the body as far as like, because a lot of the time companies would probably come up to them and be like, hey, by the way, so like this is part of the process. Like we're not just going to be taking the organs, the skin is going to be used for this, the bones are going to be ground down, turned into paste and used for this, yada yada yada. Explain to them like very like brochures basically of like, here's what we do to your family members, and sure they're going to make it seem like a lot more happy-go-lucky than what the actual process of like ripping bones out with like
I'm just
metal
gonna
chisels and shit
post this
are
link.
done.
Like
Because
that's
the brochures
literally
were there for this one too.
That's literally like Rice Daddy. What you're describing is literally embalming, right? Like when you go in and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna pamper your loved one, and we're gonna make sure they're nice and comfy." But then, like when they go in the back room, they're just like, "Let me take this sharp thing and rip out like their brains and shit, because that's gonna leak out. Gotta sew their mouth and their eyelids shut." It's like, wow.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
thank
Like nobody would like most people don't want to know like the fine details about what's actually going to happen. They just want kind of like the happy-go-lucky story of it. But on the
Don't
backside of
ask
that,
where your sausage came from.
on the backside of
came
that,
from
we could
Dooby.
have plenty
came
of
from
regulations
13
that
feet.
would. Yeah, we could have regulations for the companies that are actually going in and doing this instead of just saying like, hey, what we currently have where you can't sell this, but what you can do is recoup the cost of you taking all these tissues out of organ donors that you then either sell to companies or you give them to your biologic company that's on the side who is turning these products into things that they are selling where they're making millions of money and the families aren't getting anything for it in the first place. Like it all like it's not like trickle down or anything like that, but it would come with plenty of regulations and laws around it that we could make sure like people are safeguarded from these like most of the bad actors. You're never going to be able to safeguard people from all the bad actors. I mean, murder is illegal. Murder still happens, right? Like,
I do
we're
have a
never able to
question.
stop everything from happening.
No, I'm with you on that. I
have a
think
question
that-
for the little bit of our time. Like, since we're all kind of on the same page that in some fanciful world where the government legalizes this shit, like, what type of legislation would you guys like to see in place, like to protect the lower class, so they're not not enforced, but like coerced to like sell off body
a government offering for life insurance, maybe similar to health
But
insurance.
why? I don't understand why you see this as coercion. To be honest with you. So again, if I'm in the lower class, right? If I'm broke as fuck, and I have a wife and kids, and I have nothing to leave to them when I die, right? And I want to sign on a dotted line somewhere saying, hey, they can piece out my body when I die to get themselves some money. If that's something that I want to do for my family, like why does there need to be coercion beyond just me being broke as fuck, right?
Well, no, I mean, like it's like when you sell plasma or like other things, like you go to whatever bank and you do whatever thing you're going to do to that bank or with that bank to make money, right? Like the point. So the point is that you are on your last legs, and the amount of money you get for this thing you're doing is not very much. And like that's what's going to happen with body parts once this becomes
Sounds
common.
like most jobs people have in the United States. And
Yep,
why
we should
is
work
this,
on that.
well, okay, but like, why is this like?
Now, the
so
other thing
much
I would
worse?
do, what I think I would do here also is like if we could improve, like wealth disparity in this country, maybe this would become a moot point anyway. Like I think if wealth disparity was solved overall, I would have much fewer problems with this, right? Because like we'd have a society that's proven to be able to manage and regulate and fix like the institutional problems.
But why do we need to
Versus
solve
what
wealth
we have
disparity?
now, where
Why
I'm
do
just
we need to solve
imagining.
wealth disparity? for
Well,
us to
I'm
have
just
this?
saying. Oh, I'm just saying. Like I'm just imagining like Amazon.com selling your relatives like body parts, and it turns out that like Jeff Bezos has a warehouse somewhere, and he's just like
making
importing.
a Gundam suit.
Yeah, so
Right,
long as, so long as all the bodies
people with
are.
like Amazon Prime accounts are like having their are able to get free
Hold on,
shipping on the
but if-
corpses. You get like a
what's wrong
$5
with that?
check. No, I'll tell you what's wrong with that.
Okay,
It's
so
not
let's,
gonna fix
even
wealth
if we're a $5 check, right? So if that's, so first of all, I think that's ridiculous. But let's pretend, right, it got to the point where these bodies are only worth $5 each. If that's enough for me to say, hey, I want to, when I die, you don't need to worry about cremating me or
You
burying
can buy
me.
a Happy Meal.
I want to
guys.
sell
It'll
my
make things
body.
so
You
much
can buy
better.
some Starbucks. Then what's the issue with that transaction?
I love you a latte. Goodbye.
Yeah, what's the
Wait,
issue with that
you're like
transaction?
heavily moralizing this, like, oh, if body parts aren't worth a certain amount, then like, then the moral decision becomes unethical. Like, that's like so fucking weird. Like,
no, it's exploitive.
one-
Like, no, it's not
Why?
weird.
One, you
At a
have
certain
no
point, it's
evidence.
just outright
You have
exploitive.
no evidence that body parts would ever get that low in price, right? You have no evidence that the majority of people would sell their body parts, right?
I mean, I think we can. Okay.
We can invent a word.
mean,
Like
majority of
having
people
evidence
already
on.
don't even,
All right,
like,
so this is
organ
like
donate,
this is actually
right?
like kind of very difficult, right? Because like I would have to have evidence to prove my point. You'd have to have evidence to prove your point. So we are going into this hypothetical.
What evidence do I need?
You're going to this hypothetical.
I'm not proposing anything. Hold on. I'm not proposing anything. All I said is that you're drawing these very narrative points about like how the world is going to be, how like all these organs are, all the organs are going to drop in like price until everybody sells all their organs for $5 and their loved ones.
Okay, Bomb Dolphin. We're saying that Dooby here is fixing wealth disparity because we're going to sell people's body parts. I'm saying that is
That's not what I said.
not how it's going to work.
No, that's not what I said. No,
Fair.
what I said was that if people wanted this to be a way, or like a boost to get their family out of poverty, right? Because when I looked this up, it says that the average human body, right, is worth about $500,000 today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're saying, hey, if we allow this, the price would drop to $5,000. I mean, you're saying like $5 for some reason. Let's
I'm
be
saying $5.
reasonable. That's silly.
There's a lot of bodies.
That's silly. Okay, this is assuming that every
We're going from 0 to millions.
It's
what are you
not
talking
0.
about?
It's not 0 because
How many bodies are being sold?
Okay, you tell me. You have no idea. Okay.
Well, I mean, I was pretty sure it was 0 because, like, you can't sell.
Wait, hold on. No,
Wait,
but
the
actually,
reason
no.
bodies
body
are being
parts are so
donated.
expensive,
Wait, hold on.
right? Is
Bodies
because
are being-
that's
wait,
literally
please.
on the black
my
market
God.
for like organs, right? That's
Okay.
like that's
Wait, no, not
the
necessarily.
illegal selling of organs is like very expensive. Like this isn't a surprise, right? Like that.
Bodies-
Okay, so there's like a frequency.
Wait, hold on.
right?
Wait, 1
And the
second.
thing is,
Wait,
we can't
wait,
prove
please.
it because people are doing
Oh
it on
my
the black
God.
market.
No,
So how are we supposed
please.
to know?
Bodies are regularly donated and then sold, right? So
Okay.
the family members and the person actually dying, nobody that they're connected to is profiting from this, but the person who's selling the donated body is profiting from this. Why wouldn't we allow the family to profit too?
It's not about whether we let the family profit and like just pretend profit is always going to be something good. You're suggesting that the profit is always going to be good. I'm saying that the profit will not stay good because supply will increase, thus scarcity will be reduced, thus prices will drop significantly. And I'm saying that with millions of people dying every year, if it's completely legal to do it, then it's a fucking moot point and people aren't going to make a lot of money. That's my point.
Okay, well then,
You're assuming that people are just going to keep doing this, right? Maybe the price gets to like $1,000 and everyone decides that this is the price point where they're going to
Millions
stop
of
selling
bodies a year.
So like again, like I'm
Yeah,
more.
but you're assuming
willing-
every single person that dies is going to fucking sell their body, dog.
Hold on.
No, I'm not.
I-
Because I have no idea.
Like keep in mind, like
We're guessing.
Like
It's
I
guessing.
actually I feel the point.
Even if we want to
Mad
make an
Lad.
educated guess, it's somewhere between 0 and 100%.
I'm sorry,
but
an
it's
educated-
probably
I
not
mean-
100%, right?
No, right, sure, but it's probably not going to be 0% because if it's really close to 0%, we could still get $500,000 from a corpse.
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, so like the more we got into this conversation, the more I've been enlightened. Maybe I do want to sell my femur when I'm dead, right? Like maybe that's a thing.
And
Thank you,
I did a
Top
terrible
Dolphin
job
and
tonight.
Dooby.
I
We got 'em,
apologize for
boys.
those of you.
You did. You really
sacrosanct.
did.
We
I
got
love
them.
their sacrosanct bodies. Like
Listen,
I
all I'm saying, like I understand, Mad Lad, and we're worried about the poor people like selling their bodies and higher off numbers for like the monetary value, especially because now, like you're saying, like it's an open market, it's legal, there's no need for the black market. But then I think about like the example that's been brought up by like Bottom Dolphin a bunch. I mean, yeah, like fucking health, like not health insurance, but like life insurance and shit like that. Like motherfuckers make those choices too. Sometimes they're like, yeah, no, we gotta unplug Grammy and collect that sweet, sweet money bucks. And sometimes they're like, you know what? We're broke, we're in debt, we're poor, destitute, but god damn it, grandpa is family. And grandpa, we ain't doing that to grandpa because this is Fast and the Furious. We don't do that to family. Like sometimes people make that decisions. I don't expect people to like, if bodies are being like put on the market, I don't expect people to be like, yeah, like let me just sell everything. Like I got convinced by that example. Like they don't really do that with health insurance.
Yeah,
You
so
don't see people just callously plugging off grandma.
yeah, so
I mean,
and
sometimes you do though.
Really quick.
It's a minority of a minority, bro.
Do we know?
Just
How
one
do we know?
second. Just one second. So I think additionally, there's you're like wrapping yourself in this flag, right? You care so much about the poor people, and you just don't want them exploited and coerced. You care about them so much that you are removing an avenue with which they could make some money and maybe potentially get out of being poor, right?
I'm saying
yeah.
there's so much work that goes into this idea, this shit avenue for them to make money that we could literally take all this work and fix.
There's no reason you couldn't. No, that's silly. I think you're exaggerating. It's going to take a lot more than
Weird. I mean, considering that we're playing with phantom numbers,
the quote unquote fixed wealth
thing.
disparity. Like, come on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like,
but to say
coming from
that
someone
you care
who's
about
not
them
worried
so
about
much,
wealth disparity,
to
since
care
they have
about
all the
to say that you
wealth.
care about them, to say that you care about them so much, you're removing their ability to make money is really silly.
I'm not. No, it's not removing the ability. I'm not giving this fucked avenue for them.
Why is it fucked? What if they don't think it's fucked?
If they don't think
this
it's
entire
fucked,
conversation has just been you attempting to impose your belief system upon people.
No. It's not my personal belief system that I'm imposing.
Yes, it is.
This is a traditional cultural norm.
Do you agree with the belief system
I
you're
understand.
proposing?
Wait, like Mad Laden, I understand. It's a traditional system. In the traditional system, like I believe that, like, yeah, bodies should be, kind of sacred. But if other motherfuckers want to, just because I believe you should do shit with your body,
No, I mean, like, look, if you can somehow, I mean, right. I'm not saying, like, the thing is, like, I can be flexible on this point. If you could prove that, like, say, everybody have been, like, sharpening their carving knives and really wish this could be, like, some sort of thing, right? If this was, like, upward, like, if you could prove, for example, that, like, the majority of the American population wanted this, all right, maybe then I should just ask key back, whatever. Fine, go ahead. But the fact of the matter is, I think most of us on this panel are extremely, like, everybody who's like I don't want to say that we're fucked, but like a lot of us are very very utilitarian.
I'm on board. I'm on board.
I have a question for you, man. Very easy question.
Sure.
Maybe not easy for you, but for me, it's pretty easy.
Okay.
So if the majority of the people in the United States thought that like the cross was sacred and that we ought preserve the cross in all forms, and someone decided to like burn a cross, should the like society make it illegal for people to burn crosses and then like punish you legally if you make the choice to do it?
About to make an argument for not punishing people for burning crosses? Is that what
No,
you're
no,
trying
you
to
need
say?
like
yeah,
he's
I
asking
don't think
you
we
why
should. But like, if you think that if the majority of people like
I
are
feel like you
Christian,
need a
then
different. I
they-
mean, I think you need to come up with a different example.
I got the
Well,
wait. I
no,
got
no,
the
yeah,
perfect
yeah,
example.
no.
That there is an example. The American flag. We've had this debate,
hey,
right?
let's
Like
talk about
with
that.
with the
No,
American
like
flag.
Catholics burn crosses
no,
for Ash
no,
Wednesday.
time out.
Bro.
With the American flag, you can burn that shit. And we've had this legal debate in this country with like, yeah, we realize it's something that's sacred to this country. It's our sacred ideology, USA, God bless, patriotism, shit like that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, we've made the decision that even though a bunch of people feel that way, you can still do that. So
Right.
like that would be the more
And like I
appropriate-
would say, and like I think the flag burning is a lot more relevant and has less connotation than crosses being burned. By the way, I
Wait,
feel like
hold on,
that example would
how
have been
is
really
one more
okay.
relevant than the other?
Well, in the case of burning
Or is
crosses,
it just
it was
because you
literally
think that more people like
No,
He's
no,
going
no.
with a
value
KKK
the flag
route.
than
We
crosses?
know who's
Crosses and
burning
KKK
crosses.
Did you forget the
route.
clan exists? Like I just.
we know
No,
who's
but that's
what-
not
what
that's
do you
not the
mean?
only context in which crosses are burned.
I mean, I'm just
It's
saying,
not
like,
I'll give you an
it's not, the only,
example.
it's
So
not the only thing,
Catholics-
but let's talk about flag burning. I think flag
No,
burning
no,
is a lot
but
more.
Catholics
Yeah.
burn crosses for Ash Wednesday. They burn like old, wooden crucifixes and shit.
do they
Okay,
do it
like,
in
that's
a nice
our ignorance
little-
on the
So
never
like,
mind.
and they use that for Ash Wednesday. So I don't know why you needed to jump to the KKK. Like this is something that happens every year for like a lot
Okay,
of people.
well,
flag
I'm
burning,
so
flag
sorry
burning's right
for-
up there. It's something that
I'm
most
so
Americans
sorry.
know.
Flag burning's an
But,
excellent
like,
example.
okay,
but
so
I'm not trying to shit on it.
here's my issue though, Madlot. It seems so your argument seems to be kind of the same type of argument that you see people have
I agree.
when it's like, should we make marijuana legal? You have those people that are against it because they're like, oh, well, you could have like all sorts of children that start doing it and stuff like that.
I think the ethical scale is different, though, right? Like the ethical scale in terms of like legalizing marijuana is like, you don't have a characterization. Like the characterization of the drug is like hearsay in terms of like legalizing a drug, whereas the characterization of like the object that is the corpse is from personal interaction with the person before they became a corpse, right? So like the scale is just vastly different.
No, I'm just saying that like the type of argument though that you're making.
No, the type
kind of
is
the same
identical.
thing. Yeah.
The scale is fucking different. Though.
Yeah,
And
where
that's the thing. The scale
because
is
this
rel-
bad thing could happen, then
Well, I mean, again,
we shouldn't do it.
Again, we're talking about scale, right? So like if it's something very trivial, I don't give a flying fuck, right? Like let's legalize all the drugs, et cetera, et cetera. But if the scale is like so large that we're talking about like people having to compromise themselves in a way that they're not comfortable to make ends meet, then there's a bit of a problem and we need to figure out how to fix that. And like again, I'm all for OnlyFans. I think like people should have the right to do whatever the fuck they want. And if they want to sell their bodies to make
I was
money,
gonna say, how about
literally,
legalizing prostitution?
fine.
Same thing.
Right. So like in
Yeah,
that
so,
sense,
like-
I would be like, yeah, sure, fine. You should have the right to do that. I think the fact that prostitution is illegal in this country is causing a lot more problems than helping. But again, we're talking about folks with agency who can still functionally defend themselves on some level.
So
So if
then
everything was,
what?
if
So then
everything
you're
was,
okay.
if everything was legalized, then I think it's safe to presume on some level that the folks
Wait,
who decide
okay, so
to
you're
sell their
100%
bodies
right, Matt.
so let me
have
ask
the
this-
agency
Wait, hold on.
to
So
pursue
you're not
institutional
worried about
recourse.
you're
Yeah,
not
I'm
worried
worried
about the
about-
exploitation and coercion in prostitution and in
I'm
OnlyFans.
trying to
You're
get to
worried
that.
about it with selling a corpse.
I'm trying to get to
What?
that, but you're interrupting me, you motherfucker. Shut the fuck up. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, here we go. So institutional recourse of an individual when they're alive is significantly more there than when someone is dead, yeah? So like they can say, oh, hey, I have this problem, please help. And in places where prostitution is legal, specifically like Las Vegas in the United States, you can see where people actually have, a healthier version of the job than anywhere else in the United States. People get the drug testing, or not the drug testing, the disease testing, the rights they're protected from like folks who might assault them, that type of thing. And on top of that, like they make a little bit less because of all the regulatory stuff and the tax, the checks and stuff, but it's safe. They're secure. That security is worth like a lot. So
Okay, then
it's
simple question.
legal.
I mean,
It's fine. In
Oh,
terms
God.
of, so like I think for prostitution is a lot more relevant and worthwhile. But in terms
then-
of like corpse selling,
Yeah.
we
super simple
have
I mean,
to.
you're 100% right, Matt. Latin. People who are alive and have agency, that are definitely protected more than people who and have more choice in the matter
So
than
then your
property.
Yeah,
that
right.
is
So
yeah,
that's
so
why,
your
again, my
issue-
point here, and everybody can attack me for this. That's fine. I get it. I understand where the problems are. Is that like we're talking about an object with a lot of characterization and the rights of that object and characterization.
Okay,
we're
No, that's not
creating-
what we're talking about.
I mean, but
Yeah, so
you're
Super's
begging the
question-
question
No.
that
Oh
like
my
corpses
God.
ought to
So
have
you're
agency
okay-
over their
right,
own
Yeah.
bodies.
So are you
While they're
okay
alive,
then
yes.
with like with somebody
Corpse, if
so
the
you're
corpses
okay-
are alive,
Well, no.
Before they become a corpse,
So you're okay.
bottom
So you're
dolphin.
okay with a person making the decision while they're still alive that when I die, you sell my body for whatever purposes, whatever you want to do, whatever's going to make you money. I'm alive right now. I'm making the decision that when I die, you sell my body. You're okay with that because the person's alive making the decision?
provided that they have agency. The agency is what matters, right? So if there's coercion involved, right? Like, so if someone is like going to be, if a family's destitute and they are coerced to selling their corpse after the fact, I would say that it's unethical. However, if
What?
it's unethical, it's
No,
wrong
okay,
that someone has to
but if
be
they have
forced
families
to sell a
destitute,
corpse.
and a woman is coerced by the destitute state of their family, right, into going on OnlyFans and selling pictures of her ass for $5, right? Like
Right.
there's still coercion that exists in this process. There's coercion in every
There
transaction.
is right, so there is coercion in every aspect of this, but the fact
There's
of the matter
coercion
is,
in me.
the fact of the matter is, we should be reducing that
Okay,
coercive
so why is
power.
this specific kind of coercion?
And I would also
any better
say,
or worse?
and I would also say, in terms of like someone being forced to enter a trade where they're selling their bodies and they're not happy with it.
Not
So that is
forced.
also no, they're coerced into it. Fine, whatever.
Wait. So,
However you
Mad
wanna
Lad,
phrase it.
I have a quick question for you. So, like,
Mm.
in like your coercion, I understand it. Like, they're gonna fight you on it. I understand where you're coming from. I may not agree with you. Which coercion is worse? Like the coercion of like a woman who's poor and destitute, and she's like, "Yo, I gotta sell money, ass pictures on OnlyFans," and then like she's alive and she has to deal with all of that shit, or someone who's like, "Yo, I'm getting $5,000 and all I have to do is like give this dude my corpse when I'm dead." Like, which one of those is more coercive to you? Like, which one of those is more negative to you? Since they're like for you, they're both coercive.
So I think it would be kind of determined by the individual involved, though. This is tricky. I see where you're going
Yeah,
with
but
it.
earlier
That's
you
a
wanted
very
to totally
fair
take
point.
away the ability for one of these individuals to make that decision.
No, I'm with you. I get it. I'm trying to. So I have to actually like explore sex worker, like the ethics of sex work. Which
It
I'm
should be a
not
lot
as
easier
clear
if you
about
just
it
agreed with
effectively.
me. Like,
Of course it would be, but the thing is, and this is the thing, like if there's something, if the like it smells like fish. So if there's something fishy about me accepting this point, then we need to figure out what that is.
I don't.
And these
see, I
questions,
don't- I
like the
think
thing
that-
is, like I don't consider these a personal attack, right? Like when you guys are questioning where I'm at, I appreciate these questions because now I can kind of fine tune and figure out where, like I'm actively trying to find like the right hill to die on. So I'm willing to ask you back off of a lot of the things I've said throughout the
So-
night.
I'm just looking for the right hill, you guys. And
So
then
I
I'm
don't
looking
even
for the
think-
hill.
So I want to say I don't even
But-
think. So I need to ask a question because I don't even think Madeline actually cares much about the agency of the alive person, right? So let's say a person when they die, right, doesn't declare whether or not they want their corpse to be sold or not, right? And the family members decide to sell this person's corpse. Do you think this is like morally wrong?
Say that again one more time.
So like someone dies.
Mhm.
That person has neither declared whether or not they're going to sell their corpse. So their will doesn't exist. It was not known, right? And their family members make the decision to like sell that corpse to like some guy who wants to pay a lot of money. Would you say that these family members made a morally right or wrong decision?
Are the family members coerced into doing it, or are they just like fuck it, I don't care?
Or maybe coerced that there's a lot of money. There's an offer of a lot of money, but like
Are they going to be haunted by this choice? Yes or no?
They're gonna be haunted
I
by
mean,
this.
why does it matter?
What?
Well,
How do you
that's
how do you
the line.
determine
Are
that?
women
Wait,
are
wait,
women
wait.
who sell pictures of their
Yeah,
ass
like,
on OnlyFans going to be haunted by that choice when the kids find it in 20
How
years?
do you
Probably.
how exactly do you determine that? Like, are they going to be haunted by that?
I mean, it's your fucking hypothetical. I don't know what the fuck. Like, you're asking me to say,
This is a
yeah,
very,
this is
wait, this is a
unilaterally
very,
right or
this is a
wrong. And I
very,
don't
this is a
think,
very like realistic situation. So, for example, with
Yeah, I get
organ
it.
donation, right in the United States, if you so like when you opt in the organ donation, that's not the only way your organs can be donated, right? If you don't opt into organ donation, a doctor comes in and explains to you all of the benefits of organ donation, and then asks you if you like your loved one's organs to be donated. Right?
Okay.
This is a decision that people kind of already have to make.
Yeah, I get that.
Difference. So the difference is like now there's money
profit
involved.
motive. Yeah.
Right?
And the profit motive, I think, makes a lot of things toxic. Like profit motive has done like egregious things in our society, and I think that we have to be very, very careful when applying profit motive to something that is potentially sacrosanct. Like, for example, going back to the flag burning thing, if you could make money from burning flags, right? Like, we would start having a little bit of a problem.
You
That's
can
not
make
wait
money
time
from
out.
burning
That's not
flags if you
true.
wanted to.
Like you can. There's plenty of fucking rock and metal concerts where guess where they do, bro, in the middle of the stage because it's like, yo, we're rock. They burn flags, and you know what? Motherfuckers pay because man, this heavy ass metal band they're burning the flag.
I mean, I
Like-
don't actually, but is it impacting their bottom line? Are they making like $500,000 every time they burn a flag?
I mean, it's part of their image. They're making probably
Yeah, like
they're a big band. They're probably making millions of dollars.
in their image and it's in their concerts and their
I mean,
fucking
and like,
videos
the thing
and shit,
is,
I would say yeah, like they're
right.
probably making that.
So
much
I mean,
money
maybe like,
annually.
but I mean, on the other hand, I think like I don't know how central the flag burning is to any of these groups, right? Like I've listened to some like heavy metal fucks, and I don't actually know how central. I mean, yeah, they're like anti-society, anti-government, whatever, but like they can be anti-government without actually burning the flag. It's just like a cherry on top for them, for the most part, I would say, right? So like I don't know how much more profit it's actually generating for them, and I don't know if the statements, like the controversy around it, is actually helping them sell records or not. That's hard to say.
So let's take away quote unquote profit, right?
Yeah,
let's say that
should they
like
be
let's just say there's a financial incentive, right? So necessarily, I wouldn't call this profit, but you could say it's profit. Let's say like
So we're gonna call it profit motive, not profit. Is what you're trying to.
I wouldn't call it profit motive either, but maybe. Let's say there's an organization that the same like organ donation, and instead of giving your organs away for free, they now offer you money in exchange for said organs, right?
Okay.
Of your loved one. Would that now become a wrong thing?
If profit motive is profit motive, which it is, because you're making money, then
okay. I
Yeah.
guess
you have to work a little harder.
I guess anybody who makes money has like profit motive. That seems like a bit of.
I mean, no. Like for example, I teach chess, right? I
Mhm.
make money from teaching chess.
Yeah, because that's your business, right?
Right. That's my business, but I have profit motive. But the thing is, like, my focus is teaching chess well, so I don't think there's anything ethically wrong with it.
So Mike, I have a question.
However,
would you say?
let me just finish my example
I need
here,
to ask you
and then
this question.
You can answer this fucking question right
Would you say? Would you say? Wait. Would you say that a McDonald's worker working at McDonald's is getting a paycheck profit motive for working at McDonald's?
Okay, let's talk about the McDonald's stuff in a second. So
wait, because you're using profit motive in such a weird way.
Well, no, because you have profit motive to sell services, right? Like you make profit by doing things, okay, right? And the question is your time being used in a way that is profitable to you or not? So, like the McDonald's worker, I would say is not necessarily. I think profit motive is quite strong for this person because the amount of money they're getting is not very much, right? And like in the sense of for a McDonald's worker, I would say they're being more exploited than generating profit.
So not a McDonald's worker, somebody who's like a.
So I mean, let's talk about like
IT person making $50K.
And the thing is, like, I feel like
is them working their job and getting paid for doing their job.
Them
in
like situation where I'm having to
like personally engaging in profit motive.
I feel like what's happening here is that I'm being forced to invent language. And I feel like if I'm inventing language,
what we describe this as is people getting exchanged for like their labor, right?
Right. So like I'm using in terms of profit motive. the way I'm using profit motive specifically, and maybe we should just clear this up. Maybe I should just Google profit motive and just make sure I'm using the terminology correctly here.
Do it.
Profit motive.
I don't think the definition matters. I think the issue is that you're attached
The intent to achieve
ironically,
a
given that
gain
it's
in a
Devil's Night,
project,
you're attached to
transaction, or
spooks.
material endeavor.
That's
So
the
yeah, I
issue.
guess like making money from McDonald's can technically be called a profit motive, sure.
Oh,
Although
yeah,
you're not
obviously.
really, but like,
Wait,
I guess you can like
hold on.
have.
Even if
I guess
you
you can
go
have
by
profit
like
motive.
the
So I think
definition,
you can actually have profit motive and also be exploited simultaneously. So I shouldn't have made a diametric connection between the
but
two.
Yeah, so I think-
you're
I
just
think the
wrong.
issue-
You don't
I
understand how these words work, man. Because
I don't-
generally, when we say profit motive, we're talking about like firms, right? Like organizations or businesses whose goal is to like make profit, not people who engage in labor or the selling of goods and services in some way in order to like fuel their livelihood, right? And these are two like different things.
So the economics definition, we're talking about firms, absolutely. But I guess like profit motive for individuals
Why
is
does
a
this
thing
matter?
too. I don't know why it matters. I'm being
It
asked.
doesn't matter.
Profit motive to say that anyone that necessarily has the motivation to like get money for something is engaging in profit motive, and this profit motive is coercive.
Mad Lad has realized that he's lost and is just trying
Yes.
to hold on as much.
No,
This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like when your capital is surrounded and you're hiding in your
Holy fucking shit! Like, look. Apparently, like, okay, all right. I don't want to get into the definition of profit motive too much here because like there's actually a bajillion different definitions that I'm pulling up, and like I'm not getting the clarity that we need to like split hairs
Pick
on
one
this.
that makes you win.
I mean, I could, but like whatever, it doesn't matter. Like the
Wait,
point is,
I think we can all agree on a definition super easily. All right, in a
One that
like
lets him win.
communist society or a socialist society in which like profit motive is necessarily gone, but people still work for necessarily like work for money, right? They work for or like even in a communist society in which they work for not money, but they work for like the supplies they need to live in society. We wouldn't call these people like engaging in profit motive. We would say these people are like benefiting from the fruits of their labor.
a lot of things I'm seeing here is the intent to achieve a monetary gain in project, transaction, or material endeavor, and it involves either
This is
people
why
or
Google
organizations
definitions don't
based
work.
on like whatever. Like I don't know. The point is that it's a stupid thing to. I'm going to use profit motive in this specific manner. I'm going to say that if someone is incentivized to make money in some way, okay, like that's what we're doing. Like people are going to make money.
What's
from
the
doing
issue
something.
with them being incentivized to make money in some way to sell?
I don't think there is an issue in terms of being incentivized to make money in some way. It's the cost, right? Like there's a cost to pursuing profit. When I make money from teaching chess, I have spent an hour teaching the person chess, and then depending on the lesson I'm delivering, I'm spent time preparing the lesson or not. If I have to prepare a lesson, my rate per hour is increased. If I don't have to spend,
you don't need to go. Just explain how this relates to
right. So, like in
what do you
terms
think the cost is for
of
someone who would sell their
in terms of
course?
ethical cost, which we were talking about, the ethical cost based on the characterizations that we provided this inanimate object, there is a cost in terms of selling that body. And if they're not getting the profit they deserve for making these ethical considerations, then it's not fair to the individual to have to make that choice.
So two things.
So if someone is putting their butt on OnlyFans and making a shit ton of money for it, and they're like, escaping destitution as a result, then great, cool. But if someone made like 8 pornos, right? Like just 8 pornos that they were paid like $50 for it, and they didn't make it, like that was it. And like their name is all over the internet and they aren't able to profit from the fact that their name is all over the internet. I would say that's unethical, right? So like the amount that someone is getting for each interaction is actually very relevant here.
I get it. But in this situation, right? So whose decision would it be as to whether or not this is the ethical cost, as you call it, is worth the money that they're receiving for the body, or for putting their ass on OnlyFans? Because most of these people don't make a lot of money. Yeah. Most of these people have like a couple subscribers, maybe. Most of them don't have any fucking subscribers, right? But their ass is all over the internet, and there's an ethical cost there. There's a social cost there, because if people find out that their ass is on OnlyFans, it's gonna get around to their family, and there might be some kind of consequence.
Oh, there's gonna be consequences.
If their shit's on the internet with their name attached to it, in 10 years, my kid might look me up on the internet and holy shit, there's an old porn website with
Oh
my ass
no,
on it.
1-inch doobie
No,
dick.
hold on.
Disaster.
So yeah, these also have consequences, right? But when this person is deciding whether or not to post shit on OnlyFans, or whether or not to sell off their body after they die, right? Or to allow their family to sell off their body after they die, right? This is their decision. I'm asking you why you think in this specific interaction, you think that you should have the ability to come in and say, hey, people might do things that I don't like. They might make a decision that I don't agree with. They might not consider all the ethical costs the way that I would, so they don't get to make that decision.
The
That's
fact of
what
the
you're
matter
saying.
is, though, I'm not saying that I'm the individual that needs to make the decision. What I'm saying is that a lot of the time these decisions are the individual actors who get to make it on some level, but I think there's also institutions that get a vote in this as well, right? Like, so when we live in a society, we live in we have a government, et cetera, et cetera. On some level, the government does decide what people should and should not have to make decisions about. And I'm
Okay, so you backed off.
I'm advocating that the government should be involved in making this decision. And I'm also saying that if I had any hand in it, I would be looking at this whole selling of corpses quite skeptically and wondering if there's any logistical capacity for us to make sure that everything's
Should
going to
the
be okay.
government vote yes or no if they're willing to do the fucking structures and build them up? Like,
No.
should the government
Hold
vote
on.
yes?
If we can make a
Pyro,
perfect
1
structure,
second.
absolutely, sure.
No, not a perfect structure. So
Not a
do you
perfect
think
structure.
do you think that you or the government or whatever institution should be able to
Thanos.
say, hey, you're not earning enough money in your OnlyFans. The risk you're taking doesn't justify the money that you're pulling out of this. So we're going to shut down your
Don't say. Okay. Oh, OnlyFans. Oh, thank fuck. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you were going to tie this into the other thing. Okay.
Justin,
So
no,
should
we
the government be able to say?
You can continue, but like we are on bonus time. We've been one
Oh,
over.
okay.
But like, you
So
guys
if we're
can
talking-
continue. Like, if someone needs to leave, then you can. But if you guys want to finish this up, that's fine. Keep going.
Okay, yeah. So I think like if we're talking about OnlyFans, I think the ethical considerations are a lot more complex, and I think that shutting down an avenue of revenue that is already functionally there is substantially worse than creating a new revenue.
What?
The cost of having something taken away is great. The cost of not ever having done it is non-existent. But I mean, it's true, right? I mean, it's extremely relevant. It's true. It's true.
Okay, I think.
So,
I think
before
the issue,
OnlyFans was invented,
I think the reason you're having so many problems in this conversation, and you've pulled back from so many positions, and you're like circling and looking up definitions on Google to try to weasel them into.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to be accurate. Let's not
no,
like.
I think
let's
the
not
reason
try to.
is you, and this is fitting given that this is Devil's Night. You know, all Hallows Eve, as we call it. I think you're stuck on spooks. I think the first spook, the social construct, is that you came in here with a belief that all of us would hold that corpses are sacrosanct. There's some kind of like sanctity to this meat pile, right? Beyond it just being a meat pile that we need to get rid of, right? So, and beyond that, you came in here thinking that, oh well, hey, they're definitely going to think that it's wrong to sell a corpse. Oh God, why can't I justify this?
I feel like you're making a lot of.
This is literally. I'm watching.
I
you,
literally came in here expecting you.
I'm watching you attempting to justify this position. No,
I knew what your position was going to be on this. I already knew.
And you still did a really bad job of combating it, right? So I think we've been watching you attempting
my
to
goal
justify,
here wasn't to directly combat you, Dooby.
Suppositions
My
that you had
job
about this
here
topic.
was
And
to
you're not doing a very good job because I'm not trying to detract from your point.
I
think these are founded on social constructs that you can't justify because they're not justifiable.
Well, functionally speaking, no, I can't justify the social constructs. Absolutely true.
Yeah, so
all I can do is look at the efficacy of the constructs we have and determine how harmful these constructs are or are not. You're proposing the sale of corpses as if it's like some sort of golden ticket, silver spoon that's going to change everything, and I think that's bullshit.
No,
even if it
Dooby,
does, what are
Dooby's
you talking
only
about?
interest is about giving the motherfucker the option. Like when he's argued against
Sure.
me multiple times, and I've had to change my mind because he's been consistent on this. It's not about helping them out and raising them out of poverty. It's about
Okay.
giving a motherfucker the actual choice to be like, "Yo, I want to sell my dick," and like that's the fucking argument Dooby got me on, right? Like if I want to do that, I should be able to do that regardless of like what your moral suppositions are. Like, what is the harm
And
in
I guess,
something
and
like?
I mean, like, I guess the only harm I can determine is that people will sell their dick when they don't want to.
Mad Lad, is there
What?
any other point in like anything else that you would deny somebody bodily autonomy to make a decision over their own body?
But you mean like, well, I mean, I don't know if you saw my tweet about what I want to do for vaccinations, but I had this idea where we could form a militia, right? And we give everybody trank guns, and instead of tranks, we'll like load them up with like vaccine darts, right? And we go around and make sure everybody's vaccinated.
So you're a crazy person. Okay.
Something that's not affecting other people. Like I understand like why you would think that like people shouldn't have bodily autonomy over like making vaccine decisions because there's a possibility that they're hurting other people.
Mhm.
But something that is only going to be affecting them.
Something
Is
that's
there
only
anything
going
else
to
that
be
you would
affecting
say
them.
like you shouldn't have the bodily autonomy to be able to make that choice for yourself?
If you are acting in a way, let's see. So let's see. We're talking about like suicide as an option. That's one thing that we could talk about. We could talk about. I mean, really, it just comes down to anything that you
If
can't.
they're mentally capable.
Give
of
me
making a
one
decision,
for
right?
you personally. Like that's the question. Like we need a
Like,
specific
what would I want
example.
someone not to? So, if I wanted to deny myself rights, what right would I choose to deny myself? Is that what
Just,
we're kind of getting into?
like if people are like mentally capable of making decisions for themselves,
That's a big presumption, but yeah.
what choice do you think that, or like what other kind of choice would you take away from them? Because that's what it comes down to here.
Yeah,
You're
that's
saying
true.
you're not
You're
smart enough to
taking
make the choice.
you're taking
So-
away somebody's bodily autonomy to make a decision for their own body. So what
Well,
makes
no,
this so
but see,
much
the thing is, like
different
this,
than
but this
any
impacts,
other
like,
choice?
I mean, the thing is, like, this impacts like a lot of people, not just the individual. Like, I
Okay,
think,
so-
I think if it was a
drinking-
situation, I think if it was a situation, for example, I think if it was a situation where I could do whatever the fuck I want to myself, and nobody would give a flying fuck, then sure, go ahead. Like, the point is, like, I would have a problem. Like, I have a problem with saying that people should be able to remove themselves from the planet on a whim, because it's not just impacting them, it's impacting everybody around them. And also, a lot of the time, the mental acuity, or not the acuity, that's the wrong word, but like the mental state of the individual who's making this choice is not stable. That is,
I mean,
sometimes they'll want to live and sometimes they'll want to die, right?
people choose to drink alcohol, that affects
I mean,
people.
like,
their
Oh, that's a good one, actually.
Even better, people choose to sign DNRs, and
Yeah,
they
like,
might have lots of
we're
loved
talking-
ones
Well,
who
a
don't want to
DNR
see
is a
them
little bit
die.
different, right? Because like
No,
a
it's
DNR
not.
it's actually extremely different.
Okay,
not.
I could sign a DNR right now, right,
Yeah.
as a relatively healthy 25-year-old man, and then get hit by a car and be like a completely savable
And I completely
individual,
regret
and the
that,
hospital
yeah.
wouldn't intervene, right?
Yeah.
Because they
So
can't.
when we're talking about DNRs and the effects on families, you are literally not going to sit up here and tell someone that, like, tell these people that, like, yeah, no, that's not a very heavy moral
So
decision.
we can't
to
actually
pursue.
equate a DNR with a suicide, right? Like, it's
Yes,
two
we
very
can.
different things.
It's literally equivalent. If, like, you're
Not
literally
equivalent at all. What?
Mad Latin. A DNR is
The
literally.
equivalent with
Hold on, wait. Hold on.
disequivalency is-
Shut up, Top Dolphin.
Wait, but it's
DNR.
he's right when it's
Hold
not
on,
equivalent,
hold
but
on.
it doesn't matter, right? Because like, so
Oh my God.
the disequivalency here is that like like the person who is committing suicide, we determine as a society that anybody who wants to commit suicide isn't in the right state of mind.
Let's go to
Whereas a
Pyro.
person who signs a DNR is.
The
Right?
reason I
But
say
this doesn't
they're
matter on the impact. Right? We're talking about people who want to make themselves corpses.
So none of that literally fucking mattered, right? If I choose to off myself with like some weapon or some shit, or I tell the hospital like, yo, don't resuscitate me. I'm choosing in both conditions that like my life is gonna end. Now with the DNR, the only difference is like that one's gonna be an accident. I'm not actually like doing the thing that's making it. But like a DNR, like it does hold the same moral fucking weight, especially with the family, because then that person has to look their family in the face and explain, yo, Rice Daddy, I know you love me. I know I'm your baby boy, but Yeah, no. If I get hit by a truck, let me die. Right? And how do you think Rice Daddy's gonna feel? What do you think you think he's just gonna be like, yeah, it's your choice, buddy? Nah, he's gonna fight me tooth and nail. Like that's just how families work. Like I've lived in several families, I've lived with people like that all the time where it's like, yeah, no, they get the DNR and like they can't really overturn it because that's a personal issue, but goddamn if they don't like it. They'll fight and
Right.
argue their family's tooth and nail. That is a heavy moral calculation and shit like that. So when we're talking about making these decisions based on that, I would say
I mean,
DNR.
I'm not willing to. I'm willing to say that DNR is like loosely attached, like in a sense. Like it's very the similarities. Obviously, that's why we're bringing it up, but it's clearly not the same thing. Like a DNR means, hey, something happened to me. I'm pretty close to death, and oftentimes that circumstance is like something like being brain dead or like some sort of like unpleasant health thing, etc., etc. So when you are resuscitated and suffering and like having personal pain as a result, that's very, very different than like I'm talking about physical pain right now, not emotional pain, which is its own different thing. I mean, it's just different. Like there's like nuance here that I think we could explore, but I feel like
Wait, so
it's
the
not
argument is
necessarily
that the
worse.
DNR is more similar to the case of the corpses, right? And the DNR, right, is a lot of times done in like situations similar to like when people are going to die and might want to sign away the right for people to sell their corpse. For example, a lot of people will sign DNRs and they go into like types of surgery because they say if the surgery goes bad, no extreme measures, right? Like that's like literally like one of the main purposes for like a use of a DNR. It's like,
Right.
hey, like I'm gonna go into this surgery, but like if shit hits the fan, like don't bring me back. Like I'm done. That's my time, right? And a lot of family members will be like, hey, like if you're savable, right? Just because your heart rate's going down, like, and then we want them to be able to use the paddles to get that shit back, like, and it brings lots of anguish to family members. Same way that like the selling of one's
I mean,
corpse
it's
might bring
right.
like
So there
I
are
anguish
mean,
to family
like,
members.
similarities, but it's also
and like
like
when we're
quite different,
talking
right?
about DNRs, like they're not specifically shit that happens in the hospital. If you got a sick family member at home and then like the paramedics come and shit and they check that shit, they're like, oh, you got a DNR and like you're in really bad condition. They're gonna have that
Very few people
conversation.
sign DNRs that just walk around with them as they're like living normal human beings.
But you can.
Usually they're
though.
people they're usually DNRs are signed by people who are either chronically ill or have some sort of like illness or like very old.
Sure.
It's
Or if
very,
they have,
very,
or if
very
they have,
rarely that like
or
some
if
normal
they
person
have,
just has a DNR.
okay, it's like, or if they have shit running in their family, or if they know for sure that, yeah, I'm gonna be fucked up. There are plenty of reasons why someone who is perfectly
I mean,
healthy would have a
the thing
DNR.
is, like, I'm
The
not
point
Very
saying
rarely
is,
this is the case.
like, okay, so like again, I don't know why the fuck we're okay. So, all right, we're really pushing the DNR thing, and that's cool and everything. So, if I okay, what are we trying to pin me down on? Because I feel like I'm being pinned down here, and that's fine. Like, I'm happy to be pinned down on a topic.
So
Like,
the idea
Oh, I bet
was
you are.
that like a DNR is something that someone would choose to sign that
Mhm.
might have like negative repercussions on the loved ones in their life.
Okay.
And I would argue that you wouldn't take this choice away, you wouldn't take the agency away from the person signing the DNR because it
Mhm.
might affect their family members. The same way that we shouldn't take away the
Right.
ability for people to like sell their bodies once they're dead. Because
Well,
it might negatively affect their family
right. So we're
members.
talking about like costs, right? So like, and costs and benefits is
After
like
that,
really what it
Dooby.
comes down to. So like in terms of benefit, right? Like the benefit of signing a DNR is that you don't have to live when you don't want to. Cool. We're talking, and then we have to look at like what is the want to? Why is the want to? In this case, oftentimes the DNR is related to some sort of health condition that's impeding your quality of life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's why we sign the DNR. Like you're tired of being brought back, whatever else. And like a lot of people are on painkillers when they sign these DNRs, whatever. In terms of corpse selling, the idea here is like you're waiving whatever ritual for your corpse. You're just going to sell it to whoever and let them do whatever the fuck they want with that corpse because you don't give a shit because you're dead, right? Fine, great, cool. And like, yeah, your family might have put some character value on that object that is the corpse, and it doesn't matter. Fine. The question here is, can we regulate, like the downside, the big downside here, the reason why I'm constantly pushing back on this is that we have no way of guaranteeing that the person's corpse is being, like, we can't even guarantee that a corpse being donated to science is actually being donated to science and not just like something fucking gratuitous. Like, hold on.
Wait,
Donations
is
to
there
science
evidence for
going
this? What do you
wrong.
mean?
Hold on. I got this. I realize what we're missing. Donations to science gone wrong. That's a
Is
Google
that what you're
search.
googling?
Okay, why are you doing that, Dooby?
So I just wanted to point out something that I thought was really interesting. So when we first opened up this topic and I made my statement, I think all of you laughed, right? You thought it was fucking hilarious that I would think this is okay. And now we have, I think, these three extremely intelligent individuals to the right of me agreeing with me, and Mad Lad struggling to hold on to the scraps of his argument, right? I think, again,
I mean, just because they're
it's
swallowing your
better when you guys
verbal.
just agree with me right up front, and we save all this time.
Mad Lad,
Hey,
this ain't
I
the
just want to
last
say
battle.
my
It's okay
statement
to
from the beginning was
surrender.
fuck corpses, do what you
I'm
want.
not
So
surrendering this motherfucking
Listen,
shit.
I said like I'm gonna do the top dolphin. I also said from the beginning like I want a sick ass crystal skull family heirloom, right? Some shit I can rub menacingly and like just make up a story. That'd be cool.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm saying here, when I die, Prime, you get my dick. It's coming in the mail. What you do with it's up to you. I'm gonna make dildos.
Bro, Prime, I hope you have a bigger door frame. Like I don't know if it's gonna fit.
So, for example, we've got the situation: a body donated to science, right? And the person had Alzheimer's, and he wanted help finding a cure for brain diseases. So he specifically signed away the body for that specific use. We're going to do medical research on Alzheimer's. It was sold to the U.S. Army for blast testing, right? There's a lot of this type of thing that happens, and like that's not just
Google's
like
one
this
case. There's a lot of this type of thing that happens.
I don't know. Like bodies given to NYU ended up in mass graves despite donors' wishes. What happens when bodies are really donated to science? Ooh, this is a good article. This is the one I read, I think.
I just want to
read about this a
say
long time ago.
he is in real time participating in what is it called? Confirmation bias.
bias.
Right? This
He's
is
looking at
exactly
Google
what
and
No,
then
no,
picking
I'm
the
sorry.
one.
fundamental belief
How
about
would
the world, and he's looking for evidence.
I'm sorry. Like I knew about this in advance already, right?
Why
Like I
didn't
knew
you
that
bring the sources to the table, bro?
because I didn't realize I'd have to go so far. I mean, I already got into necrophilia because I had to push this
This
issue.
is
and
Prime's every night. You didn't expect it? Nah, that's like going to a wedding and not expecting there to be cake.
I mean,
That's just not.
I know you're right.
Like-
It's fair. I mean, like I'm getting on a panel where someone tells me they don't like chocolate, but they love asshole, and all of a sudden, I'm having to talk about this. I don't know what I was. By the way, did you get the package? Can we just transition to that for just a second? Did you get the package? Did you look? Have you checked? Are you eating it right now? Are you eating it right now?
Is that the asshole you sent him?
I sent him asshole. I sent him chocolate asshole.
We got him.
We
got him.
There's nothing wrong with
Listen,
it.
sometimes you just want a naughty treat. It's okay.
Wait, are you really? Do you have the box?
Oh my god, no, I'm not. Why would I be eating chocolate? No, look.
No, we meant
No,
ass.
you're eating ass.
Oh,
Yeah, like, are you eating ass right now?
I do that on my days off, which we are
You
approaching.
confirmed it. I just
Well,
can't.
that's really insanitary, and you shouldn't do it.
There's
nothing
dental
wrong with
dams,
eating
I know,
Doobie. Don't
chocolate
be.
is disgusting. It's what I've been saying, Doobie.
Absolutely
Thank
nothing
you.
wrong with eating ass here and there, Doobie.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I already gave up the ghost. I thought Prime like finally acknowledged what was happening. So I didn't just send you a box of chocolates, Prime. Coincidentally, I sent you a box of chocolate assholes. So when you said I don't like chocolate and I eat ass, I was like, perfect. I just
Wait,
trained the fuck
did
out of
you
this and I sent you
did you
chocolate
do
apples
the
already.
thing like where they make molds of your asshole and then you sent that to
It was
Prime?
my asshole. I'll show you that.
So wait,
Oh my
when
God.
you saying he's eating someone's ass, you'd be like the chocolate you sent him was literally just like
A mold
on
of
someone's
asshole.
ass.
No.
You are disgusting, sir.
Okay.
No, it's a mold of a random person's ass.
Yeah.
Right.
You know how disgusting that. You want me to eat random
I'm
ass now?
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Congratulations.
I'm
I
sorry.
feel like
Coming from me
it
and
might be
Pyro,
okay if they're
who
attractive.
has
But see, that's the problem, right? You don't know unless like they're your personal friend, and then like you gotta ask your personal friend, like, "Yo, let me get this mold of your asshole real quick." No, it's gonna be funny. I'm
Okay.
sending it to this guy online.
I mean, that's basically what happened. Like this guy literally has had this mold made of his hole
It's a
repeatedly. Millions of his hole has been sold.
You
I'm
sent
sure.
you sent Prime a mold like chocolate assholes of some dude's ass. I feel like that's
Very,
gay? Is that
very.
You
gay?
didn't even
It's actually very
check
similar
his
to your
I
argument.
think it's a little
preference.
guy.
I mean, I think it's
I don't
fine.
know. I feel like if I were eating molds of a guy's asshole, that'd be kind of gay.
It's not fine. If I ever get chocolate and I find out that it's a mold of an
Wow,
asshole, I'm
imagine
punching
all the
someone.
folks who are okay with selling they're fine with selling actual assholes, but they have a big problem when it's chocolate assholes.
Because guess what?
Wow,
I'm not.
I'm the
I'm not.
hypocrite, huh?
Listen,
I'm a
listen, listen.
straight
I'm not.
man.
I'm not. I'm
I
not
only
going to
eat-
buy it.
I only eat the molds of like a woman's body. Okay, like I only eat dude's body.
Okay, whatever.
It's like if I
So-
were to practice cannibalism, I wouldn't eat a guy. I'd eat a woman. I'd eat like some part of a woman.
Is that?
I don't think that's
Wait,
weird.
what?
What?
Yeah.
Wait, is this the open panel topic now? Like,
Yeah. No. If I were to practice cannibalism, I wouldn't eat a guy. I'd eat a woman, and I'd prefer it if it were attractive woman. So
Oh
if, like,
no,
a
it's
better-
extra time, and I just
Wait,
stubbed my
wait,
toe.
time
Come
out.
on.
Wait. Shut up. Hold up. Wait. I got a question. So, like, when you go and you eat beef or something, you're like, yo, I need the most like physically fit cow. I need the most attractive looking
No.
cow up in this grocery store.
Actually, I wish if there's a way for me to determine that, I would absolutely choose the most attractive, most physically fit cow. I don't want some fucking busted down cow.
Okay.